It's Friday, Friday. Get ready for Friday, Friday. It's Friday, Friday. Come on, Rockfin. Any minute now. All right. Doobie doobie doo.
Doobie doobie doo. Doobie doobie doo. Doobie doobie doo. I'm your host, Briahna Sabby. Doobie doobie doo. Doobie doobie doo. Doobie doobie doo. I'm your host, Briahna Sabby. Doobie doobie doo.
All right. Happy Friday, guys. We are here. Made it to the weekend. What is going on? Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Briahna Sabby. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Roundtable and Friday for the Sabby Show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. I want to start off by giving shout outs to people in the chat. Here we go. Shout out to CBC Voter, says 13.1K subs. All right. I'm moving on up, huh? Greetings, Aspen Fallen says, I still have the Mario song stuck in my head. I'm sorry, Aspen Fallen. I was humming that over at RBN earlier. Sorries. Shout out to Hannah G says, hi, Sabby. Shout out to Snork Y2K, who just became a Sabby member. Power up. Power up. All right. Thank you. Shout out to Gamer and Ganja for Life, who says hello. Hello to you too. Shout out to Lucky Burrito, who says gamer love. Gamer, you got some appreciation in the chat. Greetings, Kinchi Jones says, hey, dear Sabby. Hello to you too. What's going on? Joe OWS said Bernie Sanders should hand out fireproof blankets for all the damn gaslighting he does at all of his rallies. Wow, Joe, I wonder how you voted on that poll. What's going on? Jonathan says, hey, beautiful Sab, and good evening, everybody. What's going on, Jonathan? Shout out to Eric T. Red, who's a Sabby member, says, hey, Friday friends. What's going on? Silver Surfer says, happy Friday, Sabby. Greetings, Ashura says, even if Sanders runs, he's still Democrat, whatever crat he likes to call himself. Oh, man. I can't wait to see these poll results. Shout out to Where Pilgrim says, Friday, I'm in love. That's a song. What's the name of the song? I know it goes, it's Friday. No, it goes, it's Friday and I'm in love. I forget who sings it. What's going on? Patricia says, if it's Sanders versus Trump, Bernie wins. Ooh. What's going on? Yipper99 said this week went by so slow, but April is going by quick. I know, right? It's almost May. Can you believe it? Greetings, Flash Flood Area 3. I don't know why I said it like that. Says sick burn. Greetings, Sebastian says, hey, y'all. Shout out, Sean says, doobie doo. Greetings, Mr. X says, hello, all. What's going on? She's black. We need a hell no choice on that poll, Sabby. I was trying to be nice. Shout out to Kim says, hi, Sabby. Hi, Kim. What's going on? Jay Rich, who's a Sabby member, says, hey, Sabby, what did doobie doo? What did doobie do? I love it. Shout out to Dana, who says The Cure. Greetings, Ty G says 60% of viewers say no to voting for Burn Dork. Oh. What's going on, Jesus, who's a Sabby member, says, Rebecca Black, it's Friday. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay. Yeah, it's Friday, Friday. Greetings, vegan goddess, says, love hearing Sabby's commentary. Thank you so much. All right, all right. And I think I said this, but if I didn't, shout out to Snork Y2K, who just became a Sabby member. Pump up the jam. Okay, quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. You guys really do help me out a lot here. Here are all the patrons here. Thank you guys so much. If you want to be a patron, I have 5 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and Ultimate. All of their names are listed here. Boop, 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 boop. And shout out to new patrons: Andrew Bowling, Marvin Castro, IB Kalisho, and Jenny Duran. Thank you so much. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So, I have some interesting stories tonight. Don't forget, guys, tonight is also the call-in segment. At 9:30, I'll start the call-in portion so people can call in. Tonight's call-in question is about Bernie Sanders 2024. So I'm curious to hear from you guys about that. Okay, what are we talking about tonight? Let's go ahead and show the thumbnail. All right, all right. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're discussing Briahna Joy Gray and Kim Iversen on Bernie 2024. That picture of Bernie there is actually kind of funny now that I'm looking at this again. We're also going to discuss Symone Sanders' blame game. And last but not least, CNN Plus is canceled. Don't. Just like that. It came and it went. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started with this story here. Oh. I don't know what this is, Eric. Oh, hold on. I didn't put in the tight VNC. Sorry. All right, just connecting here. Yeah, I don't know what this is. I'm confused. Oh, did it not do the whole link? That's okay. I'll pull up another one. That happens sometimes. All right. Here we go. So I have another article that I'm going to use because I think that link was broken, but that's okay. I can go ahead and share my screen. Sorry, Eric. Okay, honey buns, here we go. CNN Plus shuts down. Ladies and gentlemen, what happened to this such promising platform? It was supposed to be a real winner, but I think we knew better. CNN to shutter 100 million streaming service CNN Plus after 1 month. Again, this cost $100 million. Just another reminder of what we could have done with that money. Here we go. CNN's new parent company abruptly pulled the plug on the network's 100 million venture into online streaming. A spectacular reversal that stunned employees barely 3 weeks after the launch of the service known as CNN Plus. I'm laughing here a little bit as I'm reading this because I don't think it was stunning to us. After months of planning and hiring a huge promotional campaign, CNN Plus drew modest subscription signups and faced uncertain long-term prospects. But insiders and analysts viewed its demise as a result of a brutal calculus of a new corporate owner rather than a comment on its viability. They're actually trying to blame the owner here. This is really funny. This is cracking me up. Notably, the service was conceived and developed under CNN's former own Warner Media, but was launched just days before Discovery Inc.'s long gestating acquisition of the company was finalized. Discovery executives are now in charge of the merged company, called Warner Brothers Discovery, and made the decision to end CNN Plus at the end of the month. CNN Plus was the cable news giant's bet on digital streaming and its hedge against the rising popularity of the cord cutting that has led to a steady erosion of cable subscriptions. It sought to lure viewers with exclusive original programs hosted by familiar CNN journalists and newcomers such as former Fox News host Chris Wallace and actress Eva Longoria that could be watched live or on demand. It also offered documentaries and special series already aired by CNN, including the popular food and travel programs hosted by Stanley Tucci and the late Anthony Bourdain. All right, let's go ahead and call out some of the issues right here. Hosted by familiar CNN journalists. Okay, let's talk about this for just a second. I think CNN made the mistake of assuming that their journalists are actually popular. I think they kind of see their journalists or commentators as these name brand journalists and commentators, but they're really not popular in that way. I think what CNN doesn't understand is that most people are not sitting at home thinking to themselves, yeah, I can't wait to see Brian Stelter tonight. I don't know anyone saying that. I don't think anyone says that. Chris Cuomo's show was actually pretty popular, but even with his show, keep in mind that was prime time. Even with his show, I still don't remember people saying, I can't wait to see what Chris Cuomo's going to say tonight. No. I think what CNN doesn't understand is that the reason why a lot of people are watching CNN to begin with is because when it comes to mainstream media, there aren't that many alternatives. If you are looking for the liberal talking point, the liberal view, what do you have in reference to cable news networks? You have CNN and you have MSNBC. You don't even have Black News Channel anymore because they shut down. That's what you have. When it comes to conservative mainstream networks, cable, that is, you have Fox News. So I think that CNN made this mistake assuming that people are watching them because they love their host. People are watching them because they don't have many alternatives when it comes to cable news that preaches a liberal message. Now, let's remember their ratings have decreased. Ever since Joe Biden won in 2021, ratings went down for cable news networks. I wonder why. I'm sorry, but I had to go there. So they're not interesting. They're not. Even like I have to watch this stuff sometimes, you guys, because that's part of what I do here. So I can critique it and tell you what's really going on and tell you what they left out. But even when I watch it, I cringe. It's not interesting. Just being honest. So I think they made that mistake. The second mistake that's pointed out in this paragraph is they really thought that having Eva Longoria on was actually going to bring people flocking to CNN Plus. Guys, a lot of people don't even remember who Eva Longoria is anymore. She's not popular anymore the way that she used to be. Now, when she was on Desperate Housewives, yes, she was popular. But that show has come and gone. Most people are not looking around for like, oh, let me go see if I can find Eva Longoria. And you want to talk about younger generation, a lot of them don't even know who she is. Another mistake. Let's go back into the article. This is something else. Another problem here I want to note, it also offered popular food and travel programs that already aired on CNN. So why were you showing the same programs that were already on CNN? People could just watch those on CNN. Sorry, but just is what it is. But CNN Plus was unable to offer its subscribers streaming access to CNN's popular daily television news programs because of non compete restrictions in its contracts with cable distributors. And in its first month, it appeared to be having trouble persuading enough customers to sign on to a $5.99 monthly service. Get out of here. Would you pay $5.99 a month to watch CNN? Who's gonna Mr. X says CNN never heard of DVR, right? Very strange. Very strange. I would not pay that to watch a news net. I'm sorry. You can also watch CNN episodes on YouTube for free. So why would you? That was so stupid. You're going to ask people to pay during a pandemic after people are struggling financially. Was CNN Plus not listening to the news about Netflix? How they're constantly right now, they are losing subscribers at Netflix. They're just flocking. Apparently not. Apparently not. Where Pilgrim said Discovery Plus goes for about $4.99 a month, I think. Wow. So they wanted you to pay more than Discovery Plus, which actually has some pretty interesting shows on there. Notori Lee said, fuck no. See? There you go. Let's go back into the article. Okay. Whoops. I got to put my thing back up because I lost my spot. Okay, there we go. From March 29, CNN takes a 100 million step into streaming today. Its sudden end reflects one of the biggest and most expensive misfires in recent media history. Quibi, another heavily promoted streaming service that centered on entertainment, shut down in late 2020 after less than 7 months and more than 1.5 billion in investment. The announcement delivered by CNN's newly appointed chairman and CEOs Chris Licht astonished employees who gathered in a TV studio on the 19th floor of CNN headquarters in New York. After his speech, Sarah Sidner, a longtime CNN correspondent who moved from LA to New York to host CNN Plus show, took the microphone. This is mind-blowing, to be perfectly honest, she told the gathering, according to one staffer who was at the meeting and spoke on the condition of anonymity. CNN Plus hired about 700 people for its launch. A person at the network said that 350 people will be affected by layoffs. Though the company expects many of those employees to find new roles at the company absorbed back into CNN or into open jobs at Discovery-owned networks such as HBO Max streaming service. Besides Wallace, CNN Plus had built new shows around several other marquee talents hired away from prominent news organizations, including Cassie Hunt from MSNBC and Artie Cornish from NPR. Interesting. In all, the shutdown may be the largest and most substantial blow to CNN, a network that remains enormously profitable, but has recently been beset by declining ratings and headline-grabbing scandals. So they hired 700 employees for CNN Plus. Why? Did they need 700 people? I don't think they did. I think that was stupid. Now they have to lay people off. I just don't understand what was the point of this project. CNN is on cable TV. They're also on YouTube. Why did you need to start CNN Plus? That was just, I don't know who came up with this idea, but I thought that was really stupid. Thanks for the super chat, Andrews. CNN Plus, more like CNN minus. Guess people weren't interested in Brian Seltzer, Casey Stunt, and Chris Thoughtless. Oh my gosh. That one's funny. Rodrigo says, I'd pay to keep CNN off the air. Ouch. Jonathan said, absolutely not. I have cable and I don't even watch it there. Exactly. They actually thought people were going to pay for that? That's ridiculous. I'm way behind on the comments here. Paul said Netflix lost a fortune because they closed their Russian service. So like Heat, Eat, and Power, neoliberals are screwing you over and blaming Russia. Good points. Good points. No, Steve. Steve said Sabby is bigger than CNN Plus. No. Wow, that's a disappointment, you know. That also makes me a little concerned because I feel like they're going to be looking more so at those of us in independent media, because there are people on YouTube that do independent media that are getting more views than these hosts on CNN. Let's just be honest. I mean, do they get as many viewers as Jimmy Dore does when he's live streaming? I don't know. This is so funny. Oh my gosh. Hilarious. I forgot to tell you guys what I'm drinking tonight is called Exhibit A Brewing Company, and it is a briefcase porter. Happy Friday. It's really good. Really smooth. All right. I want to go ahead and get into our second story. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So let me mention something before I go into this, because this has a couple of clips that go along with it. So obviously, you know, Joe Biden is continuing to decline in the polls. So they are very much aware that people are not excited about going out to vote for Democrats right now. They realize we're going into midterms. Chances are Democrats are going to lose the House, possibly the Senate as well. So among the people that are losing interest, that includes young voters, that includes African-American voters, and that includes independents. Now, I know some of you may think, well, independents, you know, they don't really matter as much, but they did for Joe Biden. Independents voted for Joe Biden in Arizona. That's how he was able to win Arizona. They really came out for him. So I predicted this last year when he started to lose support among that base, independents. I said, uh-oh. Here we go. But now there's more cause for concern in mainstream media because he's starting to lose that same support from African Americans and from young voters. So MSNBC had a discussion with Symone Sanders and also Corbin Trent. Now, he used to work for AOC. He doesn't anymore. But you got to listen to this conversation. Now, I have a series of clips for this. Thanks so much. And shout out to Case Study QB because these are his clips. He's doing the thing. I want you to listen to this discussion. So let's go ahead and go into this here. So Corbin Trent is asked if progressives feel like they have been taken for granted by the Biden administration. I want you to hear this video. And again, this is part one. I'm going to go into the others in just a second. Listen to this.
Corbin, I'm curious to get your thoughts about the progressives in this. What is the mood right now among progressive Democrats? Do they feel like they've been taken for granted when they look at some of the issues that they wanted delivered by the Biden presidency that have not yet come through?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that they feel taken for granted as they feel like they've been trying to offer some solutions to the problems that we're seeing in the polls, problems that we're seeing in America, and that those solutions just keep getting pushed off the table before they're really considered highly. And I think when you see a party that doesn't have a coherent strategy to make a vision for America that resonates with the American people, I think that you should be looking at all your options and using all the resources you have. You got one of the most popular politicians in America, Bernie Sanders, and he does have the time, I think, to go out there and, sort of push a little bit of adrenaline into the Democratic Party base.
Stop right there. That part right there. He said you have one of the most popular politicians, Bernie Sanders, and he does have that energy to go out and push the Democratic base. The Democratic Party uses Bernie Sanders as a tool. Now, we all know that Bernie Sanders is independent, but he usually votes with the Democratic Party, with what the party wants and what the party needs. Now, there's been a couple of times where he's gone rogue, but most of the time he votes along with the Democratic Party. Listen to how they're talking about this as if all we have to do is get Bernie Sanders to go out there, to go to these cities across the United States and to get people motivated to vote for Democrat again. Mark my words, don't be surprised if that happens. This is what they do. They use Bernie Sanders as a tool. Now, I'm going to go into more detail about this when we get into the story about Bernie 2024, because I have some things to say about that as well. But what I want you to realize is that even though Bernie Sanders is an independent, he still belongs to the Democratic Party. Crazy how that happens, huh? Crazy how that happens. Dana Fairbanks said, how did that work out for Hillary Clinton in 2016? Oof. Greg Bruce says, I don't think he'll be able to get people excited anymore. Let's go back into the video.
Get people fired up about turning out in the midterms. And so I understand that the president's got a lot going on, and Democratic folks that are running the White House have a lot going on, but there's other people in the party that could be out there really fighting against the narratives that the Republicans are spinning, and I don't see that working. I mean, you mentioned that we've done a lot already as a party, and I think
they lost him here. I think Corbin froze. Let me go back. Hold on. Okay, listen to this part again.
Turning out in the midterms. And so I understand that the president's got a lot going on, and Democratic folks that are running the White House have a lot going on, but there's other people in the party that could be out there really fighting against the narratives that the Republicans are spinning, and I don't see that working. I mean, you mentioned that we've done.
So did you guys hear how he just said there's other people in the party that could go out there and spin and get things really going? But Bernie Sanders is not in the Democratic Party. Do you see how this works? See, they automatically consider him a part of the Democratic Party. I have something I'm going to show you about that too as well from Black Agenda Report. But they already consider him a part of the party, even though he's independent, because he does what the Democratic Party wants him to do. You got to watch out for this one. You got to watch out for this one. Hit that like button, guys, if you haven't already done so. That really helps me out with the algorithm. Let's see if he comes back. I know he cut out for a little bit, but let's go back in and see if he comes back.
A lot already as a party, and I think that's.
Symone, let me pick up on what Corbin was saying there. I think we may have lost him, or yeah, Corbin, I'm sorry. You froze up for a minute, so we lost a little bit of your connection there. But I wanted to pose what you were raising right? To Symone and share with you, Symone, what Elizabeth.
Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and go to the next clip where this conversation continues. There's a couple of things I want to point out to you. Go here. Also, shout out to Case Study QB for this clip as well. So this is the second part of this discussion. Now they're asking, what can Democrats do to win back young people and the base? So listen to this discussion. Oh, I have some things to say.
So, Corbin, Symone name-checked your former boss there, AOC, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was asked about President Biden's low poll numbers. Let me play for you what she said. Take a listen.
We need to acknowledge that this isn't just about middle of the road, an increasingly narrow band of of independent voters. But this is really about the collapse in support among young people, among the Democratic base, feeling like they are not, that they worked overtime to get this president elected, and they aren't necessarily being seen.
Wait a minute.
Is she right? And if so,
listen to what she said. Watch this. Listen.
Symone name-checked your former boss there, AOC, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was asked about President Biden's low poll numbers. Let me play for you what she said. Take a listen.
We need to acknowledge that this isn't just about middle of the road, an increasingly narrow band of independent voters.
She said a narrow band of independent voters. Are independent voters a narrow band? Because last I checked, independents were increasing in this country. We're increasing. The last graph that I checked, and this was fairly recent, said the majority of Americans were independent, considered independent voters. But notice how AOC is describing them as a narrow band. So either she really doesn't realize that, or she does realize that, and she's trying to get people to believe that there aren't that many independent voters in this country. That's not true. I don't know if everyone realizes this, but after 2020, no, let me go back. 2016. After 2016, each year, the number of independent voters increased. What does that say about the two-party system, or how people feel about the two-party system? You know how many people I've met that have told me I don't like Republicans or Democrats? My dad didn't tell me for the longest time that he was an independent. He didn't tell me until I started doing this show. Can you believe that? And I remember asking him, like, Dad, why didn't you tell me? And he said, because I wanted you to make your own decision. I was like, you should have told me not to vote for Obama. But yeah, all this time, my dad was an independent. He never liked either party. My mom, Democrat. Although my mom did vote for Bernie Sanders. I was able to convince her to do that. But let's be real here. Yeah, thank you for that number. I thought so. Joe OWS said 53% of Americans are independent voters. They're in the majority. That's not a narrow band. Let's go back into the video.
But this is really about the collapse in support among young people, among the Democratic base, feeling like they are not, that they worked overtime to get this president elected, and they aren't necessarily being seen.
That's a good point there too. Yeah, some people did work overtime. Some people stood in line for 10 hours, you guys. I had a friend in Atlanta. She was in line for 10 hours waiting to vote for Joe Biden. Just keep that in mind.
Is she right? And if so, what can Democrats do to win back that portion of their base?
I think she's absolutely right. I think there's a big portion of the Democratic base that feels forgotten. I mean, we're not just losing, rural white voters like we have been for.
I had to pause this here for a second, then I'll take it back. There's something I wanted to point out to you. Notice what it says about Corbin Trent here, Justice Democrats co-founder. Remember, I told you he used to also work for AOC. So just keep that in mind. See, these are the kind of things I want you guys to pay attention to when you watch mainstream media. I want you to pay attention to the people that they bring on and the titles that they have. And sometimes you may have to research their titles, right? Just to see, what does that mean? Like if someone has a title and it says executive director for the Clinton Foundation. Okay, great. What is the Clinton Foundation? What do they actually do? Who do they take money from? These are important things for you to know. So they brought on someone who was a Justice Democrats co-founder and worked for AOC to ask questions about if AOC is right. So, of course, he's going to say yes. This is something that mainstream media does often. They bring on people that are going to repeat their narrative. They bring on people that are going to give the talking points that they actually want to hear. So that's important to note. That's why I always say, like, under their little names, make sure you pay close attention to their titles because that's important. Now, here's the question I have. If they really want to know how the young voters, especially the young, the young progressive voters feel, instead of bringing on Corbin Trent, who co-founded the Justice Democrats, why not go out on the street and actually interview young voters? Why not bring on a panel of young people who voted for Joe Biden, young people who are progressives who voted for Joe Biden? Why not do that and ask those people instead of someone who co-founded Justice Democrats and worked for AOC? If you really want to know how the young people feel. But see, they don't really want to know. They don't want you to hear the truth. They don't want to bring on someone like me. Imagine, you know what I would say. They don't want to hear that. So what they do is they bring on these talking heads here who are going to go along with the narrative. Let's go back into the video.
For decades, we're losing across the board. We're losing Nashville voters. I'm from Tennessee. You know, Nashville's starting to slip away from us. I think the Democratic Party has got sort of an identity crisis happening. And what's, the bad part of that is the right-wing Republican Party is definitely articulating a vision. There's going to, if you give them more power, they're going to have smaller government, less immigration. They're going to, they want to ban abortion, restrict women's rights to choice. There is a vision, a coherent, if you elect us, this will happen, right? And I think that we've done a bad job as a party of creating that vision, and we've certainly done a bad job of picking low-hanging fruit that improves the lives of people. And even when we did, I think we were putting money in people's pockets all last year and for quite some time, and then we didn't really go around and tout that as an accomplishment. We didn't show the
Wait a minute. Let's go back. Listen to this. Here he goes. He's going to have that same narrative. Same thing that Rokana said. Listen.
White voters, like we have been for decades, we're losing across the board. We're losing Nashville voters. I'm from Tennessee. Nashville's starting to slip away from us. I think the Democratic Party has got sort of an identity crisis happening. And
why does the Democratic Party have an identity crisis? Because you have people in the Democratic Party in DC that are, well, technically progressives that have gone into that party, and they are in the same House and the same Senate as the establishment Democrats. This is another reason why I think the progressives should have a separate party. Instead of trying to take over a party that's owned and controlled by Wall Street, all those progressive candidates should have had their own separate party. Call it whatever you want. If you want to do Green Party, do Green Party. Call it whatever you want. But the establishment Democrats in the House and in the Senate are not going to bend to people like Cori Bush and AOC and Ayanna Pressley. They're not going to bend to them. A lot of those people have been in office for a long time. They like the way that things are done and they don't want to change. So that's the part about the identity crisis. But listen to this part.
And what's, the bad part of that is the right-wing Republican Party is definitely articulating a vision. There's going to, if you give them.
He said the Republican Party actually has a vision.
More power, they're going to have smaller government, less immigration. They're going to, they want to ban abortion, restrict women's rights to choice. There is a vision, a coherent, if you elect us, this will happen, right? And I think that we've done a bad job as a party of creating that vision, and we've certainly done a bad job of picking low-hanging fruit that improves the lives of people. And even when we did, I think we were putting money in people's pockets all last year and for quite some time, and then
we were putting money in people's pockets all last year. Did you guys get money in your pockets all last year? They didn't even give us the full stimulus check. All last year, were you getting money all last year? Because I wasn't. They didn't do recurring stimulus payments. What is he talking about? Let's go on.
We didn't really go around and tout that as an accomplishment. We didn't show the people whose lives that changed. We reduced childhood.
That's not true. Every time you turn around on mainstream media, what were they talking about? Look at what we've done. The American Rescue Act, the stimulus check. Every time I saw them on TV, that's what they were talking about, what they did. I saw that from Rokana. I saw that from Pramila Jayapal. We saw that from Joe Biden. I saw that from Nancy Pelosi, AOC, Ilhan Omar, all of them. He's lying. How are you going to sit here on national television and tell the American people that the Democratic Party was putting money into their pockets all last year? Not to mention, they stopped the child tax credit. Remember? He thinks we forgot.
Poverty in a dramatic fashion, but didn't tell that story and then cut that off. So I think that there's no question that there's a lot of people that feel taken for granted and that they're not getting the satisfaction they deserve from putting Democrats in charge.
Yes, but why aren't we hearing from those people, though? Instead of this gentleman, why aren't they talking to the people that feel that way? Why aren't they bringing those people on to this program? Just something to think about. Something to think about. I have another clip that I'm going to show you with this as well. Violet Blue, what's going on? Yeah, I was torn on the poll. Looking back, you're right. Vote for more disappointment, more FU, no thank you. Oh, I haven't checked the poll yet. I wonder where it's at. Guys, if you're new, if you just joined me, do me a favor and take that poll. It's pinned at the top of the live chat. Let me know. That's going to lead into the call-in segment, so that's important for me to know. Thank you so much for the super chat, Snorky Y2K. Maybe the goal was to lure hosts to a venue and cancel it from the get-go. Is there a link to who is supporting which candidate? Ooh. I have not seen that yet, Snorky Y2K. I can check. I can check on that. Jonathan Cooper said, absolutely not. I have cable and I don't watch it there. Oh, he's talking about CNN. Yeah, that was funny. .com. These people's job is to turn left activism into votes for the Democratic establishment. Oh, Dot, wait till you hear what I have to say about Bernie 2024. You're speaking my kind of language. Angelina said the Justice Democrats are just really Democrats pretending to fight for justice. There you go. Ashura said Sabby Sabs, Justice Democrats were caught stealing money, I think. Yeah, there's a lot to go. There's a lot to get into about Justice Democrats. I actually have a video on my channel where I actually show you the receipts about how Justice Democrats also was taking dark money. So it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. All right. This is the final part of this segment. And this is where Symone Sanders comes in. So listen to what she says. This cracks me up. They're going to make you a little bit bigger.
Symone, we got about 30 seconds left. One of those low-hanging fruits that Corbyn's talking about, probably the issue of canceling $10,000 worth of student debt. Why hasn't President Biden not done that yet?
Well, it's my understanding that, yes, that is one of the campaign promises President Biden made. It's my understanding that the White House feels as though that Congress can send them a bill. And if in
Stop this woman. Guys, listen to this. Listen to this again. Oh, who are we going to blame?
Symone, we got about 30 seconds left. One of those low-hanging fruits that Corbyn's talking about, probably the issue of canceling $10,000 worth of student debt. Why hasn't President Biden not done that yet?
Well, it's my understanding that, yes, that is one of the campaign promises President Biden made. It's my understanding that the White House feels as though that Congress can send them a bill. And if Congress sends a bill, the president would sign the bill, and that's something that the White House believes would be more long-lasting. But I also know that they hear the people who have been protesting in the streets. They are getting the calls from members of Congress and advocates. And I think that they're going to be poised to do something. What that something is, well, I'll have to wait and see.
Symone, we got about 30 seconds left. One of those.
Do you see how she put the blame back on Congress? This is why I say when everyone points to Joe Manchin as the problem, as the troublemaker here, it's not just Joe Manchin. He's just a rotating villain. If it's not him, it's Kirsten Sinema. If it's not her, it's the Senate parliamentarian who all of a sudden seems to have so much power, even though I had never heard of this position years before. If it's not the Senate parliamentarian, now it's Congress' fault. Joe Biden can cancel student loan debt by executive order. Now she says he's waiting on a bill from Congress, and if he gets the bill, he will sign it. Will he? I haven't heard Joe Biden say that. I haven't heard Joe Biden say that at all, actually. If you guys have, let me know in the chat, but I have not heard him say that or agree to canceling student loan debt. Nancy Pelosi told us that Joe Biden can't cancel student loan debt. You see how their lies catch up with them? Now here you have Symone Sanders letting you know that he's just waiting on a bill from Congress. Does Congress know about this? Who's writing this bill? All they're doing is stalling. And even if they put something through, they're only willing to do like $10,000. Elizabeth Warren said up to $50,000. $10,000 is nothing. For some people, that barely pays the interest. They're just going to, again, try to give you scraps. I think this is hush money. This is just something to get you to go out and vote for them again in the midterms. Well, I'm not falling for it this time. I'm not buying it. All this blame game, it's so-and-so's fault. It's that person's fault. It's everyone's fault but Joe Biden. And I would say the same damn thing if it was Donald Trump in office right now, but it's not. Joe Biden is the president. And so when people ask me, why do you continue to pick on Joe Biden and not Trump? Donald Trump is not president. I think people need to let him go. Let them go, please. I'm starting to worry. I'll take those comments on Rockfin, Eric. Do 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 do. I don't know how you do this, but here we are. All right. Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. Thanks for helping Kit to get in touch with Scott Sab. Scott is at every Campaign for New York Health Act rally, always holding up the sign of his son, Danny. Look forward to meeting him again this Tuesday as we head back up to Albany to bring some heat to Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who has enough co-sponsors to pass the New York Senate. I don't think Speaker Heastie is a big is a big obstacle as Andrea. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Kevin. Good job as always, Sabby. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for this tip as well, Roger. New York leg session ends June 2nd. We're trying to push for the following end qualified immunity statewide: the Clean Slate Act that automatically seal criminal records for those who have finished their time and off parole and probation, but won't apply to sex offenses, courts, and fingerprinting for security jobs. This could help 2.23 million New Yorkers reintegrate back into society. Housing, New York Health Act, New York Public Banking Act. And thanks for this tip as well: the Democracy Preservation Act that bans entities with foreign financial ties from donating in elections, it would also prohibit such an entity from funding independent expenditures or political action committees. The Digital Fair Repair Act, aka Right to Repair for Electronic Equipment and Devices, both already passed the New York Senate by a veto-proof majority. Everyone find out where your state is at. Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and go into our final story here. Now, Briahna Joy Gray and Kim Iversen had a discussion about Bernie Sanders running again for 2024. I do want to go ahead and say that Bernie Sanders said he would run if Joe Biden does not run. And let me tell you how people are easily tricked, because I saw a lot of people get excited over this on Twitter. I want to remind you that that news came out after Joe Biden had already said he plans to run again. People were that easily duped. I'm like, didn't you guys just see that they announced that he already had planned to run? And then the next day they come out with the news saying Bernie Sanders is going to run if he doesn't run. You see the trick? You see the trick the media does? Come on, come on. All right. So I want you guys to hear this discussion because I think this is really interesting. And this is actually going to lead into the call-in segment. Also, if you haven't had an opportunity to do so, please complete that poll that is pinned to the live chat, because I want to show those results at the end of this segment. Here we go.
Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. Kim Iversen joins me for the entire show remotely while Robbie is out sick. It's great to see you, Kim.
Well, it's early, really early. So for those of you that don't know, I'm in LA. So when I get up to do the show to fill in for Robbie or something, it's just it's early. So
you're a hero.
Well, here I am. So we do have a great show for you today. I'm gonna power through it. We've got some great content. We're gonna hear from Alencia Johnson and Emily Jashinsky on a new GOP super PAC.
And I'm going to fast forward. Here we go.
Has not ruled out another run for president. It also touted Bernie's popularity status and his support of the working class.
Congressman Ro Khanna tweeted out some of the Bernie's popularity data that was in the memo. According to YouGov, Bernie is the most popular elected official in the country, which the congressman attributed to Bernie's strong progressive agenda, adding that he was proud to have co-chaired this campaign. Before the news broke yesterday, Bernie appeared in front of the Budget Committee and showed why he's the most favored politician among workers.
When we talk about why the American people are angry, why, among other things, we're seeing a spurt in the growth of trade unionism in this country, it has a lot to do with the fact that CEOs in large corporations now make 350 times more than their average workers. In addition to that, they receive stock options, golden parachutes, and a wide range of perks go to the CEOs. And meanwhile, working families are struggling to pay their bills, to feed their kids, to take a few weeks vacation, and to save up for retirement. So what we are seeing now is more income and wealth inequality in this country than we have seen in 100 years. And this is an issue that if nobody else wants to talk about, we will talk about in this committee.
Yeah, I gotta say, I understand why there's so much enthusiasm about this on the left. There has been a real void since Bernie dropped out in 2020. The popularity numbers are true. He's still among, if not the most popular elected representative in this country. And that is because I think he's been so consistent for all of these years. As the conversation ping-pongs back between social issues, there he is, dutifully talking about the economic concerns that continue to plague this country. And I think especially in a moment like this, there are a lot of people who would welcome a respite from all of the fighting and a return to the kind of basic grassroots bread and butter issues that are concerning so many people.
Okay, so I do have to jump in here. Is Bernie Sanders the most popular politician? According to the numbers, yes. But Bernie Sanders was also the most popular politician when he ran in 2020. He still lost. Popularity doesn't mean you're going to win. Like that's a big part of the problem. The other part of the problem, I think that Bernie Sanders is going to run into, like I said, if he decides to run, I think Bernie should not run. I think this is it. Okay. I think that Bernie Sanders had his time. I think his time has come and gone. But the other part that he's going to run into, Bernie Sanders is not going to be the Democratic nominee. And this may be hard for some people to hear, but I just want to be honest with you. The DNC is not going to allow Bernie Sanders to become the nominee. There's different things that they can do. I think we all saw this in 2016 when he ran against Hillary Clinton. They can change the rules. They can change the rules. So 2020, you can point to as well how they let Mike Bloomberg come in. They changed the rules for Mike Bloomberg to enter the race and just jump on the debate stage. They're not going to let him be the nominee. And this is something that I really hope that like progressives understand this time, because I'm just going to tell you, like, I was very like pro, like go Bernie. And I really thought that Bernie Sanders stood a chance even in 2020. And I was fooled twice because I wasn't willing to accept the fact that the Democratic Party, the DNC, is not going to allow it to happen. And they actually do pick who they want to go into office. They're already selecting people. They're already mentioning Mayor Pete, or he's not mayor anymore, but they're already mentioned Pete. They're already talking about him. They've mentioned Kamala Harris, which I think is horrible. They'd be stupid to do that, but they mentioned Kamala Harris, and there's been mention of Ro Khanna as well. But at the end of the day, they are never going to let Bernie Sanders be the Democratic nominee. I think that this is a ploy. I think that Bernie Sanders is trying to get young people excited and encouraged about going out and voting again. And I think the same thing is going to happen just like last time. He's not going to become the Democratic nominee. And then Bernie Sanders is going to tell them to vote for the other Democrat candidate that beat him. This is all a ploy. Right now, they know Joe Biden's poll numbers are significantly low, especially among young people and among Black people. So what do you do when the current president's numbers are significantly low? You have to find a way to energize people to come back out and vote for the party. They know that Bernie Sanders, for the most part, still holds that progressive base, right? Like, I mean, I'm a leftist. I'm more of a socialist, actually, but he doesn't hold me anymore. Like, that's the thing, because I realize the system is rigged. I realize how the money works. So for me, he doesn't have that same kind of, I guess, hold over me that he did in 2020. But there are still progressives that he does still have that hold over. And they really are excited after they heard that Bernie Sanders may run again. And to those people, I mean, they have the right to feel how they want to, but I just want them to be realistic. We watched them cheat Bernie Sanders 2 campaigns in a row. There wasn't even like a gap, like 2 campaigns in a row. We watched them do this to Bernie Sanders. I don't know why people think it would be different this time around. It's not, because the money is the problem. Let's hear what Kim has to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, let's get real. I don't think Bernie's going to be running again, because I do think that Joe Biden is going to be running again. And even if Joe Biden didn't run again, the Democratic Party is not selecting Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. And I think it's become abundantly clear to many of us that who they put their power behind is who ends up ultimately getting the nomination. It doesn't seem to be based on who's actually popular amongst the voters. They figure out a way to ensure that other voters come out and end up, changing the outcome. I mean, I just don't see Bernie Sanders being the nominee no matter what. And I also think that a lot of people, they would have some of the same concerns about Bernie regarding age compared to Joe Biden. It's like, oh, what's the difference?
They're basically the same age. Yeah,
they are the same age.
I think all that's malarkey. Yeah.
Well, right. And Bernie is way spunkier than Joe Biden. I mean, how a person ages is not based on the actual number. There's other physiological things to that.
Right.
But, one thing that also really stands out to me about this is I mean, why is it that so when Trump was in office, the only thing we ever heard about, not just from Bernie, but from pretty much the entire Democratic base and politicians, is racism, sexism, bigotry, constantly going on about we got to fight all of this. And then Joe Biden gets into office. You've got a Democrat finally sitting there. And now you've got Bernie Sanders saying, well, I'm going to talk about this because no one else is. Why isn't the Democratic Party talking about this? Why are they focused on so many other things other than, I mean, look, granted, there's other things that they have to be focused on, like not the war. I mean, that would be something I'd like them to put more focus on what Bernie's talking about. But instead, they do definitely need to worry about the economy. But they just seem to focus on war and COVID. And, this is the time when Democrats are in power. They should be the ones stepping up, doing things from the workers. They claim that that's what they were running on. And yet here you've got Bernie sitting by himself, essentially saying the same things he's been sitting by himself saying this whole time for years.
Right. Well, the reason that
one word, Kim, money. That's why the Democratic Party isn't doing that. Money. They're bought and paid for. And I hate to say it, but I have something I'm going to show you about Bernie Sanders as well. And this is from Black Agenda Report. I hate to say it, but Bernie might be bought and paid for too. Wait do you see what I have to show you? Let me go back into the video.
that the Democratic Party isn't talking about those things is, of course, because we have two corporate parties that are equally invested in substantively maintaining the status quo. So Bernie is able to criticize the system from the outside because he is an outsider. He is an independent senator from Vermont. And that's why I think a lot of people across the ideological spectrum were committed to him, because it took courage to spend all of that time outside for 40 years. But I think the real scuttlebutt here in this story is that a lot of folks see this as a planted story, something that was leaked by Fashakir, who led the Bernie campaign in 2020. And this is meant to generate some interest, some buzz, but it's not really, to your point, meaningful insofar as Joe Biden is likely to run, and also the Democratic Party is never going to get behind Bernie Sanders. And there are people who are very skeptical of this story in the first place because they feel that even as much as they admire Bernie Sanders, they're frustrated that he hasn't been more vocal about some of the splits that have happened among the left since he dropped out of the race, and are very concerned that he hasn't pushed for the kinds of reforms that would prevent future left candidates from being sidelined the way he was sidelined, like helping to develop.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders left his movement. And you can't keep doing this. You can't build a movement and then when you lose, just walk away from your movement and then say, oh, I'm going to run again. And then I'm going to pick my movement back up again. You can't do that. Imagine if Dr. King did that. This is the plus about people like Dr. King and Malcolm X not being politicians. That's the big difference. When you have someone who's an activist, someone who's an organizer, who's a leader, who really wants to bring together the people, and they're not a politician, that means something. And that really matters, because the people who are activists and leaders and organizers, especially if you're the leader of a movement like the civil rights movement, they didn't just leave their movement. Imagine the things that Dr. King and Malcolm X could have done if they weren't killed. Imagine the other things that they could have done. Dr. King wanted to do UBI. He was talking about UBI. He was talking about reparations. Dr. King was starting to organize workers. Do you know what this country could have been if those people weren't killed? It's just something to think about. So again, imagine if they just left their movement like that. Just keeping it real.
An alternative third party.
Right, absolutely. And the other thing, Bernie, maybe it would be, I think, in his best interest to even start planting stories like this, to be honest, and even potentially running and actually doing it, just to continue holding up to the values that he claims he holds, which is pushing for workers, pushing for the middle class. This would be the way to do it. Threaten Joe Biden, essentially.
Yeah, he did it to Barack Obama, and he got a lot of flack for it. But he threatened to run in 2012 over some social program that Barack Obama was canceling, or threatening to curb. I believe it was Social Security.
And if you guys notice, Bernie didn't do that. I knew about that as well. Bernie Sanders did threaten to run in 2012 and primary challenge Barack Obama. Why did Bernie not do that? Because the Democratic Party didn't want him to. So again, what's the point of being an independent if you're just always going to go along with what the Democratic Party wants you to do? That's something I don't understand that. I never really got that.
And during the 2020 campaign, a lot of people tried to make this a racial issue. Oh, Bernie Sanders was going to primary our first black president. How dare he? But it was arguably, many people believe that it was his threat, his mere threat to run that caused Barack Obama to back off of his threat to cut some of these much needed and very popular social programs. So I completely agree with you there, Kim.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do. Well, Bernie, holding true to himself, he is expected to visit the Amazon warehouse in New York with labor leader Christian Smalls this weekend. So he is still standing with the workers. And, I think Bernie Sanders could come back around. And if he wanted to run again, and I don't think it's a bad idea, as I mentioned, I think he could grab a lot of those Trump voter base if he were to stick to, and I mean this, every politician derails into culture war of some sort.
So I want to chime in something that Kim's saying here. I told you guys last week there was a difference between Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign and his 2020 campaign. His 2016 campaign, Bernie actually had support among people, not all, but some people who ended up voting for Donald Trump in 2016. I know this because I've talked to them myself. He actually had support because he was focused on corruption. He was focused on the corporate elite. He was calling out the banks. 2020 campaign, he changed his message a bit where he didn't focus so much on the corruption and calling out the banks. In fact, I don't think he called out the banks at all in 2020. He started to focus more on, we got to get this racist, sexist, misogynist president out. And yes, I get it. In reference to Trump, I get it. But he started to lose some of that base that he had from 2016. And I know this because I talked to people who voted for Bernie in 2016 and they did not vote for him in 2020. And they said because he changed his message. So I think if he would have stuck with the class issue, if he would have stuck with the corruption, calling out the banks, I think he could have still had that base. And if you go back and you look at the map and again, I was all over this in 2020. I should have started this show a long time ago. I really should have. But if you go back and you look at the map of the states that Bernie was able to grab in 2016 and the states that he grabbed in 2020, Bernie lost some of those states that he won in 2016. And part of that has to do with some people thinking that he couldn't beat Trump. I get that. But I want you to focus on the people who voted for him in 2016 and did not vote for him in 2020. That's a big difference. I want you to focus on those people. Just like I said before, when Trump won in 2016, we need to look at the people who voted for Obama twice and then turned around and voted for Trump in 2016. So I think that population is important. And I think that's something that's important to focus on, because when you change your issues, when you change your focus, that can cause you to lose some of your base. Bernie Sanders, if I remember correctly, yes, 2016, he got Michigan, right? 2016, he got Michigan. He lost those states in 2020. If I'm looking at the states, Michigan, Wisconsin, he lost them in 2020. So something happened. And yes, I know he was smeared in 2020. He was smeared in 2016 too. But when talking to people, and this is why I think it's important to actually talk to the people who voted for him in 2016 and the people who didn't vote for him in 2020 and get their perspective on that. There was a change in the campaign message. I for one, believe that Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign was actually stronger than his 2020 campaign. What do I mean by that? Bernie's 2016 campaign, that was revolutionary. I felt like that's when he was talking about the revolution. Bernie's 2020 campaign, it was somewhat watered down when you compared it to the 2016 campaign. Now, I don't know why that is, but there was a change there. There was a change. And so, again, I would love to do a panel, and if I can reach out to people on Twitter. I've done this before. I would love to do a panel with people that voted for Bernie for 2016 but did not vote for him for 2020. I want to hear from those people. I don't want you guys to hear from people that worked for Bernie, that worked for AOC. I want you to hear from the voters, the people who might have canvassed for them. I want to hear from those people. So if you're one of those people, you can DM me on Twitter or you can email me. My email address is always in the details description of my videos. But I think we need to hear from those people. Let's go back in.
Racism, sexism, bigotry, critical race theory, groomers, like whatever it is that they devolve into, if they just stay away from that, do not let Twitter run their campaigns. If they stuck with the issues of building back the middle class, putting money back in the pockets of people, giving them health care, helping people live their best lives where they can take a vacation once a year with their kids to the Grand Canyon or Times Square, Disneyland, the things that people want, have a 3-car, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house or whatever, the people want, they want the things that we grew up thinking we could have if we worked, even if we were working blue collar jobs. And that is just not happening anymore in this country. So Bernie sticks to that. I think he could actually grab quite a bit of those Trump voters, certainly a lot of Democrats. Right now, people are hungry for economic issues again, like they were in 2016. If he were to do that, he could change, even if he doesn't win, even if the Democrats don't give him the nomination, he could change the rhetoric, the landscape of the next election, what they're talking about.
I think.
But the problem, again, that he's going to run into, even if he's able to grab some of those Trump voters again, like he did in 2016, is that the Democratic Party, the DNC, is not going to let him be the nominee. So then what? I think this is a reality that we have to come to grips with. I think we need to just flat out admit that they are not going to let him be the nominee. That's the problem. Let's go back in, and then I'm going to show you that article.
That's true, but I also would resist a framing that says mentioning the existence of racism, sexism, or bigotry that is really, really real in a lot of people's lives is not mutually exclusive to really focusing and prioritizing a lot of the economic issues. When I spoke to Christian Smalls recently, he was talking about the racial diversity at the Staten Island plant, and a lot of people looked at him. Amazon issued that famous memo, right, that said he wasn't articulate. They didn't like the way he looked and presented himself. But his point was that because I am from this community, because people recognize me and I dress like someone who's from the area, I look like someone who's from the area, all of that is mingled up in people's ability to trust you and relate to you. And I think that's a really important part of this broader organizing effort. One other just brief point, when I talk to people who traveled with Bernie on the 2016 campaign, one person in particular, Ben Jealous, former head of the NAACP, said he was really nervous when Bernie took a speech talking about Black Lives Matter in addition to all of these other issues into a white part of the country for the first time, and he cringed as the part of the speech about Black Lives Matter came up, thinking that the audience that had been cheering with Bernie was going to stop cheering with him. But because the speech touched on everybody's issues and included everybody's things, he was pleasantly surprised to see that people really whooped and hollered and stood on their chairs and clapped for that part of the speech in particular. So I really do think key to solidarity is not cutting off the parts that you think are going to be distasteful to people, but making sure that everybody's issues are heard in a kind of equal way.
But I think that also includes having a Black agenda. I think that also includes having an agenda for Black people. Bernie didn't have that. Marianne Williamson had a reparations plan. Bernie Sanders did not. And if I remember correctly, I believe Nina Turner told him that he should have something. He should have some type of He didn't have that. I think that's going to be a make or break moment for the Democratic Party come 2024. If none of those candidates have a Black agenda, I think that's going to make some people say, I'm done with this. Somebody clip this. We'll go back to this come 2024. Someone clip this because I want to see if that's going to happen. More people are starting to ask for that.
You make some really great points, but we got to move on. We're going to listen to your radar. I don't have a radar today, everybody.
Oh, that's the end. Okay. So guys, I hope everyone has completed that poll. I want to give the poll results before I show you this article because I don't want to sway you. Especially if you already voted. I don't want to sway your vote. So let me go into the poll and I'm going to pull those results up. Doobie doobie doo. Oh, that was weird. Looking at myself here, it's kind of cringe. I'm just going to snip this results. Oh, I can't. Balls. Sorry. I have to go in to my account to see the results here. Come on. I'm curious. And now I did. Why can't I shoot balls? I'm just going to pull it up on here. So I did take into consideration that some people may want to say yes if he runs as an independent. So that's why I put that as an option. And the reason why I created this poll is because I saw that Vanguard had a poll on Twitter asking people if they would support Bernie Sanders. So I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. Let me clip it. If they would support Bernie Sanders. And I think, after talking to people in DM groups, I think some people may have been a little confused. Some people thought that by support, that meant like, oh yeah, like may you donate money to them, or if they say they're going to run, like, yeah, I support them running. But there's a difference between support and voting for them. So I wanted to do my own poll just to see what the results will be. And I don't think we necessarily have the same audience per se, but some of you watch both of us. All right, let me share my screen. Yeah, so I think some people got confused and were just like, oh yeah, I'd support him. But wait a minute, I didn't say I would vote for him. So there's that. All right, honey buns, here we go. Here are the results. Would you vote for Bernie Sanders in 2024? 4% said yes if he runs as a Democrat. 57% said no. 38% said yes if he runs as an independent. So that's really interesting. This is what I wanted to see. 38%, 57%. That's interesting. But as I thought, most of you are done with the burn. So now I'm going to show you that article. Now, this is from Black Agenda Report, and shout out to those of you who brought this article to my attention. And shout out to Jenny for sending me this. Let me go ahead and scroll down. Bernie out of the closet, Sanders' longstanding deal with the Democrats. I'm not going to read this entire article, but there are two parts that I want to show you in particular. I am glad that the left intellectual activist Chris Hedges does not support Bernie Sanders' campaign for the Democratic Party presidential nomination. As Hedges explained in a recent interview on the Ralph Nader Radio Hour, Sanders' candidacy lends undeserved credibility to the thoroughly corporatized Democratic Party. Sanders has pledged that he will support the corporatist military hawk Hillary Clinton in 2016 general presidential election. Sanders stirs up legitimate progressive energy and popular anger and then funnels it back into a dead political system. Now, that's coming from Chris Hedges on Ralph Nader's podcast. And then there's one more section here that I also want to show you as well. Let me go down here. I don't know why that's on the, oh, well, that wasn't there before. Here it is. Oh, no, that's the military stuff. I'll put this article in the chat too, so you guys can read this on your own. But trying to get to the part where it says, yeah, he's a de facto Dem. So it says, Governor Howard Dean described Sanders as an ally who votes with the Democrats 98% of the time. So that was what I was saying before. He's usually with the Democrats. Not saying he should be with the Republicans, but again, what's the point of being independent if, you know what I mean? So, but there's one part here about what he said he would not do. Go down here. Oh, whoops. I think I passed it. None of this part, none of this is a departure from Sanders' earlier career since 1989. As the shaggy-haired mayor of progressive Burlington during the Reagan years, Sanders may have been a Sandinista supporting left political, willing to challenge the two-party duopoly. But Bernie cleaned up his too radical act after his 1988 defeat. He went to liberal Harvard's imperialist Kennedy School and came back to work in tandem with the corporate and militaristic Democrats under the guise of an independent and third political identity. He's been on the not all that left wing of the dismal dollar Dems ever since. It's a different story than what Bernie tells campus towns, progressives on the campaign trail. According to that narrative, he has joined with the Democrats only this year, and because of his pragmatic calculation that third-party candidates cannot succeed under the U.S. party and electoral system. In reality, however, the Democrats have been Sanders' closet party for the last 15 years. He really is just coming out of the closet now for the presidential race in a Clinton welcome effort to help give the Democrats a much needed fake populist makeover for the 2016 elections. The great Socialist Party presidential candidate, Eugene Debs, whose poster hangs in Sanders' Senate office, would not be impressed. I'm going to put the link to this in the chat if I can get the link to it. I don't know how to do the link to it on here. Nope, that does not work. I have the link somewhere else. Give me just a second. Eric, could you put the link to this article in the chat? It's a longer article, you guys, but I really recommend that you read this. Again, this is from Black Agenda Report because it explains to you, because this is why this article was sent to me. Because we were on a stream for RBN Roundtable and someone pointed out in the chat that the Democratic Party allows Bernie Sanders to run in the presidential campaigns as long as he promises not to form or coalition some type of third party. That's what I was told, that was the agreement, that he could do that, but he could not run as an independent or collate some type of third party. And I wouldn't be surprised by that. But yeah, please check this. I'm looking at the time too as well. Eric, I think I'm going to take a little break before the call-in segment. And then I think there's a super chat from Steve. that probably hasn't been read. But yeah, while I'm taking the break, Eric, if you want to look at this article, feel free to too, because there's a lot more to it. It goes into like the way he's voted when it comes to wars, how he's voted along with the Democrats with that as well. But if that's true, that was the agreement, that he would not start some type of third party movement or whatever, that's suspect. I'm just gonna let you guys know right now. That's strange. Okay. So I'm gonna take a quick break, and then Eric will go through some of the chats in that article if you want, and then I'll be back for the call-in portion.
All right. So how's everybody doing? This is like the substitute teacher coming in. But let's see. Let me get size that way. All right, let's see what we got for some chats up here. We had, I think we call this a super sticker from JJ. Thanks for that. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to note this one. Ashura noted in the poll, it was only 4% that were ready to vote for Bernie if he runs as a Democrat. Yep. Let's see. Let me clear that one out. All right. And we had another super chat here from Steve, right? Yes. Steve says, Sabby, don't waste our time with Bernie. That's over. All right. I feel you, Steve. I feel you. Thanks for that one. Let me see if I can also bring up the Roger Meadows here. Let me just change. I gotta change an extra screen over here. Yeah. So we had. I'm gonna do this a certain way. There we go. Gotta do it that way. I'm trying to remember if did we catch this one before? No, I don't think so. All right. So this is fool us once, shame on you. Fool me twice. This is from Roger Meadows and Rockman. Fool me twice, shame on me. But fool me thrice, as Bush Jr. would say, the fool can't get fooled again. People, 36 gubernatorial races happen every midterm. So don't think of this as a congressional election. See this as a governor's election. It's way more important who your governor and state lawmakers are than who your representatives are in the federal government. But come out, don't leave good ballot initiatives on the table. So I think that's Roger calling us out to be supporting the ballot initiatives, which is a great idea. Thanks for that one, Roger. We got another one from the Roger Meadows on Rockfin. He said, here's an idea. Instead of getting reporters to go all over the city, have them get an Uber and Lyft driver account. Put a camera in the car, and now they can talk to people all over New York City of different wealth, income. We must be willing to lose in order to win. Let the Fed go for the rest of the decade and focus at home on states, local, and ballot initiatives. Thank you for that one, Mr. Roger. On the fins. Let me hit that there like that. All right, so we had a great time today out there on Boston Common with Sabby Sabs. She gave a great speech. There were a lot of great speeches. This was organized in part by Massachusetts Peace Action, and it was connected to Earth Day, trying to have a day for both the Earth and for peace, and that was a great event. And there was a lot of talk about kind of getting these organizations to come together and work together. And it does feel like things are building. I mean, it was a good turnout. I mean, especially considering, this was Friday at 1 p.m. in the workday. And we were were hanging out with Jill Stein for a while. Sabby had some good conversations with her, and also the folks from Massachusetts Peace Action. And we'll see what comes forward of that. I know they already have on the schedule a Workers' Day event action for May 1st in Boston. I'm sure there'll be a lot of May 1st events all over the place. But yeah, and it's good. It's a Sunday, so people should be able to come out for that. So definitely look for those events on May 1st, and maybe if you're around Boston, we'll see you out there. Now, in terms of tonight's topic, whether or not to vote for Bernie, I feel like we should be talking about this in terms of issues and principles and demands. Is Bernie really willing to start calling out the Democrats, for their corruption? I mean, when Bernie calls the Democrats what they are, which is corrupt and in the service of big money, I mean, then I might consider voting for him, running it as an independent. But I mean, he won't even do either of those things, so it's kind of a non-starter. And I mean, just in general, I mean, we just don't hear a lot of talk about the money. And I see a comment about my cat, or about the cat picture. That cat. He was named Tiger, and he passed away a while back. But Tiger was a good one, and we remember him fondly. Meanwhile, back to the money. I mean, when I hear like commentators, whether it's Kim Iversen or Briahna, I just don't feel like I hear them talking about the big thing that runs everything in Washington, which is the big money. It's it's kind of telling that we managed to have that they managed to have all these conversations and these criticisms and pointing out all these problems, but they never seem to manage to call Democrats corrupt, or even Republicans corrupt. I mean, I guess it's obvious that they are. But until we start doing that, I just don't think we're going to get very far and really dig down to what the real problem here is and what the solutions are. And thank you. Yes, Kitty loves films. Where'd it go? There we go. The money, always follow the money. Yes, definitely. Hey, Sabby, we're talking about the money.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start. I think I start the call-in room, right? And then add you as a speaker.
Yeah, or you're gonna add Sabby Sabs audio.
Yeah.
And we're doing it this way.
Go live.
And hopefully it'll work better than last Friday.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat for those of you who are watching. Let's get that going. Oop, wrong email.
But doesn't it seem, Sabby, like they had that whole conversation and then just never even talked about money or corruption?
That's just something I've been noticing. Like, I'm gonna talk about it on the call-in segment because it's just something I've noticed. Like, I feel like we used to talk about the money more.
Is the room started?
Yeah. All right, guys. There's the link to the call-in segment. I'm gonna go ahead and let me add Eric as a speaker, or me as a speaker. Sabby Sabs audio invite. All right.
Yeah, this thing always takes a minute to update.
Yeah, and I did talk to, just for you guys if you don't know, I did talk to IT at Callin, and I told them about some of the glitches with the app, and they are aware with the Android app, so they're working on it. It just takes some time. So give me just a second.
There it is.
Oh, you got it? Okay. And I'm going to invite you to speak.
Accept.
All right. And now you just got to unmute.
Okay, I think we should be somewhat operational here.
Cool. All right. Uh-oh. I need to turn the volume thing down on my phone.
Let's see. Oh, wait. I gotta add it to the room. All right, almost there. No, that ain't it. I got a few computers running.
I don't know how you do it.
Testing. Now, all right. Now we have some sound going into call in. They should be able to hear us in there now. And I think we should be operational. All right, you want to start her up?
Test.
Anyone in call in want to give us a thumbs up if they can hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We got some thumbs up and some hearts. Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, I need to plug in a headphone thing because my thing isn't muted. Hold on. There we
Onto
go.
your phone.
Yeah, it'll be fine though.
So in closing, follow the money.
Yes.
And then if you're following the money, then you got to start thinking about what are we going to do about the money?
Right.
But that's
all right.
another discussion. All right, you're going to start her up?
Yeah, for some reason it won't let me mute on my phone. I'm trying to turn the volume off on my phone. Let me see. Oh. Test. It's still... Okay, I guess it's fine. Okay, guys, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me on call-in? All right. I really need to plug in a headphone so people don't hear me, but the headset thing doesn't. All right, here we go. All right, welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast on Call In. This is episode 8, Bernie Sanders 2024. Bernie Sanders may consider another run for president if Joe Biden does not run. Would you vote for Bernie Sanders as a Democrat or as an independent or not at all? I'm going to take the first caller, and that is Eric. All right, Eric, you are on the mic.
Hey, Sabby. Thanks for taking my call. First, I just want to congratulate you on that speech that you did today. I love that you did that, and I encourage you to do more of those because I think your voice, relative to the other speakers, came out much nicer and much stronger. So you definitely can do it. So just want to encourage you to do more of those if possible.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah. And then as far as, I may have mentioned that Bernie I did a lot for Bernie's campaign. I'd never done anything before. I canvassed for him. I donated money multiple times. I made phone calls for him. I just did as much as I could and drove out to go see him, although I didn't make it to the place. I made it, but it was too packed and I couldn't get in to go see him up here in California. But we must look at his history, his recent history over the last couple of years. What has he done that would demonstrate that he would actually go against the status quo, against the Democrats? What has he done? And what can we quantify that he's actually done that would lead us to put money back into his campaign, to give our sweat equity back into what he's going to do? and he hasn't done anything at all. So I would, number one, I would never vote for him again as a Democrat or any Democrat running for president. Uh, as an independent, it would be hard for me to want to vote for him unless he did something right now that, would be a paradigm type of shift event that he would do, meaning calling out the Democrats, meaning calling out Joe Biden, doing something that would stand up to the status quo right now, that would change the course of politics as we speak. If he doesn't do that, why should we use our hard-earned money and our time and everything that we have, our soul, our heart, to put back into him? Why should we do that? And RBN talks about putting 80% of our time and money, time equals money, into direct action and not into electoral politics, which I agree. Because if not, we're going to get more of the same. So does that make sense?
Yes, it really does, Eric. And this is one of the things that I've been speaking about as well. You guys are listening to someone who canvassed for Bernie Sanders. And I think we need to hear more from the people who canvassed for Bernie Sanders and AOC and how they feel about all of this. I mean, that's not something that's easy to do. No. And I think that, hold on one second. I really need to grab my,
you sound good. I mean, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just my phone volume, for whatever reason, won't go on mute.
Okay.
So I wanted to plug in that really quick. Give me just like 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sabby.
Okay, cool. I think this is some of the frustration that a lot of us have, that for people who are excited about Bernie again, they just don't understand. Like, my material conditions in my life have not improved. And I don't understand the point of voting for Bernie Sanders again, just for us to get let down again, because like I said, the DNC is not going to let him be the nominee. So what's the point? I feel like this is all just a fundraise and to get people excited about voting Democrat again. And then again, at the end, when he's not the Democratic nominee, what is Bernie Sanders going to do? He's going to tell you to vote for his opponent, the Democrat opponent who beat him, just like he did in 2016. He told us to go vote for Hillary Clinton, just like he did in 2020. He said, go vote for Joe Biden. And I mean, I just can't go down that road again. And so for
That's
me,
a great point.
For me, even if he ran as an independent, and honestly, I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to run as an independent. I think he knows the Democratic Party is not going to be okay with that. So again, what's the point of Bernie Sanders being an independent if he's just going to always go along with the Democratic Party?
Yeah. And you know what else, Sabby? We don't know what he's been talking to as far as the strategists that work with the Democratic, with the DNC, with Joe Biden. We don't know what Bernie's been doing, if he's been talking to these guys who strategize for the behalf of the Democrats, because they could see the writing on the wall. There is no energy behind the Democrats. So maybe what you're saying is correct. He could be jumping into this to garner energy back into the Democrats' side, because people know that people essentially have a lot of love and respect for him. However, the real energy behind Bernie is behind people like us. Because if you notice, we are also the reason why Nina lost. She had no energy behind what she was saying. And it's people like us, even though it seems like we're small, I think we are a small part of what makes up the left. But I think we are the outspoken ones and sort of the energy where the energy's at. And people right now are up on all the game on the Democrats, including Bernie. Hate to say that, but he hasn't done nothing to show us that he would do anything different. Had he done something over the last 2 years, had he actually been doing something that was meaningful, uh, then yes, I would love to be behind him. But with everything that's happened, he sat on his hands, didn't really do anything. And I go back to last week or the week before when he had that live stream on his channel. He had very few people on that because people don't want to hear him anymore. They're just like, okay, what are you going to do for us? We gave you all our money. We gave you our time. I felt very let down when he didn't go and really fight for, the way he was treated at the end. And so, yeah, we're let down and we're deflated. We don't want to get behind this anymore. We're past this is, we're past him. We need to do something else.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel you on that. I agree. Well, Eric, thanks so much. I'm gonna go ahead to the next caller.
Thank you, Sabby. Keep speaking and keep doing your speeches.
Thanks so much. Okay, the next caller is Edward. Edward, you are now on the mic.
Yes. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak. The short answer, if I had a chance to vote for Bernie Sanders again, I definitely would not, because I could never trust him. Let me tell you a little bit why I feel I can never trust him. Back in 2000, when he was running for president, right now I'm living in Brattleboro, Vermont, but back then I was living in Florida, actually in the Orlando area. And I did vote for Sanders in the Democratic primary at that time. But you know something? I never heard a single ad in Florida from Sanders about how Biden was trying to undermine Social Security. As a senator, he was trying to be part of some grand bargain to cut Social Security in return for, I don't know, Republican concessions to balance the budget, stuff like that. And that can be seen on, I'm sure you can find tapes of his advocacy on YouTube and the like. And he didn't do a single ad about it. He barely mentioned it. And of course, Florida is a state full of retirees, and he should just have papered the airwaves about how Biden was willing to cut Social Security. Also in South Carolina, why didn't Bernie paper the airwaves with the fact that Biden was responsible for many black men going to jail because of his support for the crime bill? Why didn't he paper the airwaves with how Biden caused student loan debtors not to be able to declare bankruptcy? And in the end, there was a lot he could have done. I think it was in April of 2020 that he finally kiboshed his campaign. There was still a lot he could have done to try to win back support and bring up important issues to challenge Biden to the very end, but he failed to do so. It seemed to me in the end, he was more about just sheep herding progressives into the Democratic Party, which he did pretty effectively. It wasn't effective enough for me because ultimately I voted for Howie Hawkins in the general election. But basically, from what I see of Sanders, it's either gross incompetence that has resulted in his defeat in 2020, or he was just going to kibosh his campaign all along. He was going to sabotage his campaign all along, and it was just more or less a sheep herding exercise. And that's the way I feel, and I don't feel I could ever trust him. And I'm not going to waste an ounce of energy on someone I can't trust, especially when it comes to politics. And that's why I'm such a supporter of. If I don't know if she will choose to get in the race, but I'm such a supporter of Tulsi Gabbard, because Tulsi Gabbard is one of the few people out there who I feel that I could actually trust. I don't always agree with her on everything, but I feel like she's not lying to me every time she opens her mouth. And basically, I don't know. You should do a segment sometime on this thing Kyle Kalinske did. He talked about how, well, he showed a clip of this Republican, I think his name was Mo Brooks from Alabama, and he revealed how the lobbyists basically run Washington, that you have to buy your seats on various committees and you have to get lobbyist support to do that, and how they basically run Washington, and you're just the person, you're just sort of like middle management ultimately, and the whole process is corrupt. And knowing what I know about that, I'm just never voting Democrat or Republican again. I'm only voting third party or independent, just like you advocate for. And I think he should do a segment on that Mo Brooks thing that Kyle Kalinske talked about sometime. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty
Awesome.
much my thoughts.
I'm glad that he talked about the corruption with the Republican Party as well. But I think it's important for people to note that the Democratic Party does the same thing. These people are already handpicked. So Robin on YouTube just said, I remember reading that Tim Kaine was chosen as Hillary's 2016 running mate all the way back in 2008. And this is one of the things I've been trying to tell people. A lot of these candidates are already chosen. They're already picking Ro Khanna. They're already picking Pete Buttigieg. Like, this is all a plan. And so I wish I knew that back in 2020. Like, I wish I really understood, like, that's what was going on, because I think then I wouldn't have been let down the way that I was. I would have understood, okay, this is great, but I know they're not going to let Bernie Sanders become the nominee. And then I wouldn't have gotten my hope up. And I think that's important for people to know, is that this is what happens. This is what they do. They pick these candidates. They choose who they want, and that's how it goes. And anyone who runs against them and tries to challenge those candidates, those people, especially if they're not Democrat establishment, they're smeared. But you're right. You're 100% right. Like, Bernie Sanders should have called out more things about Joe Biden. That was something I noticed too. Even when he debated Joe Biden one-on-one, he could have been much harder on Joe Biden. He let Biden off easily. And I said this to people before as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Bernie Sanders had already been contacted before that final debate with him and Joe Biden to go easy on Joe Biden and let Joe have this one. I would not be surprised if he had already been contacted and was told to do that. But you're right. There's so many things, especially in South Carolina. He definitely could have told people, well, you do realize that Joe Biden is the architect of the crime bill, and he's the reason why a lot of you, especially African Americans, you can't file bankruptcy on your student loans. Like, there's so many things he could have said about Joe Biden, and I felt like he went way too easy on him. And that's when I realized, I said, Bernie's not really trying to win.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for everything you're doing, and I really enjoy your show, and I'll try to call back in the near future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, I'm going to go to the next caller, and that is Anthony. Anthony, you're on the mic.
Hey, good to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Hey, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Geez, well, what's the topic is, would I vote for Bernie Sanders again? Hell no, not a chance. And the funny thing was, Bree, she was doing like a hypothetical, what if he ran independent and played hardball and this and that? And I said, well, I didn't say, but to me, if he didn't come out explicitly against the deep state and, CIA, FBI, NSA, these kind of agencies, unless he like started going against them verbally, I would never vote for him. But that's why, I don't know, when you have such a, there's no candidate that we can support. That's just what I'm saying. There's not going to be.
Yeah. I think the energy that he had in 2020, I think that energy is gone. And don't get me wrong, there's still people they're excited. Like some people are excited. They're like, yay, the possibility of Bernie Sanders again. Woo, woo. But at the same time, like, I feel like that energy that he had for that movement in 2020, I feel like it's not at the same level. And I really do believe that his 2016 campaign was actually stronger than his 2020 campaign. I feel like the 2016 campaign was actually more radical, more revolutionary, because he was calling out corruption more. He was calling out the banks. Like, that really meant a lot to a lot of younger people. And then in 2020, I noticed he wasn't calling out the banks anymore. And I'm like, oh, maybe someone spoke to him or whatever. But I am really curious, though, to hear from people who voted for him in 2016, but didn't vote for him in 2020. And there is that population out there. And I think after talking to two friends of mine that were in that category, they told me that the reason why they didn't vote for him in 2020 is because his campaign message changed in 2020. They didn't like the fact that he wasn't putting most of the focus on the corruption and the class issue. And he started talking more about, well, we got to get Trump out because he's racist and he's sexist. And that says a lot. I mean, I think that's the good thing to hear. And at the same time, it just makes me think, like, again, like, was that done on purpose? Like, was he really not trying to win? Like, what? I don't know. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We're not in these meetings. But at the same time, the DNC was never going to let Bernie Sanders win.
Well, he's just an old, comfortable man, to be honest. And he's way too old to be running this time, that's for dang sure. And that's probably just why he doesn't want to rock the boat, because he's just not, he doesn't have the, I don't know, the something to keep up with it 24/7. Now the squad has absolutely no excuse. They are, I mean, Bernie, I mean, I think he's a little bit of a sellout, but the squad, they're too young to be acting, well, I guess they're so young they're acting like idiots, but Bernie's too old. He can't do it.
Oh boy. All right.
And I doubt all of their sincerity, but all right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for calling in. I'm gonna go to the next caller. The next caller is Cool Blue. You're on the mic. Just gotta hit unmute. And I think it dropped you. Let me make you a speaker. All right, I invited you to speak. Great. So just go ahead and unmute.
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I tried calling last week and I made a mistake as well. So I guess I had some learning to do with this and I apologize for that. To let you know, I don't take this thing with Bernie Sanders seriously. And I frankly will not vote for the Democratic Party, especially not in their current form in general elections. And I have 4 key reasons why that is. Number one, they rigged their primaries. When they rigged their 2016 primaries, they didn't rig it against Bernie Sanders only. They rigged it against every person who voted for Bernie Sanders. And right there, that could be enough reason to never vote again for the Democrats. But in recent times, there's even more reasons. It's like every time I turn around, here's another reason. I will not vote for the Democrats, especially in their current form, because they've been doing McCarthyism with all the Russiagating within these recent years, including this year. I will not vote for them because with the pandemic, which is more like an endemic, they're anti-choice. They try to shove mandates on people. And they wanted people not to do their own research, not to have their own, be in response to your own body. So I think that's enough to say that they're anti-choice. And I will not vote for the Democrats in general elections because they are now the party for censorship. And I think you know what I mean by that. That's all I want to say. And thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cool Blue. I appreciate that.
Vote for the Democrats in general elections because they are now the party for censorship.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take the next caller, and that is Rena. You are on the mic.
Hi, Sabby. Thanks for taking my call. I'm gonna be nicer to Bernie. I voted for him twice. Went to a caucus in 2016 because that's what the Democrats in my state were doing. Went to a caucus and voted for him in 2016. Voted for him in the primary in 2020, and certainly would have voted for him in both cases had he made it as the Democratic candidate. He has been disappointing. I don't disagree with anybody about that. I also think whoever the earlier caller was who said he's just trying to gin up some excitement in the Democrats for the 2022 midterms, that's probably a very astute analysis. And yeah, he's going to be old, but he's in 1,000 times better shape than Joe Biden. I don't know if anybody else saw the video of Joe being frightened by the Easter Bunny, but good Lord. And I mean, the man looked genuinely terrified. I mean, I feel sorry for him. You know, he's being subject to elder abuse as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, probably I would do both of those things again. Here's the kicker though. He's not going to run as an independent. He's already hitched his wagon to the Democratic star. And I live in a red state, so who I vote for in the Democratic primary or whatever doesn't make any difference. And who I vote for in this state as the Democratic candidate doesn't make any difference. And I haven't voted for a Democrat since I voted once for Obama in 2008. And I haven't donated a dime to a political candidate since that year. I learned my lesson. Thanks, Obama. And yeah, I don't do the money thing. No way, Jose. I did buy a T-shirt from Bernie, and I think I donated like $10, and that's it with me for political donations. So again, I'm maybe a little more charitable toward Bernie. I do think it would really upset the DNC if he did well, and maybe that's the only reason I think I would vote for him. But yeah, probably in 2024, like the last 3 presidential elections, I'll be voting third party if there's anybody to vote for. And if not, I'll write in somebody, maybe my own name. Who knows? Thanks a bunch, Sabby. Great show.
Awesome, Rena. Thanks so much for calling in. All right, I'm going to take the next caller, and that is Shelly.
Hi, Sab. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I mean, you know, everything's okay. I'm really still trying to figure out why we keep talking about Bernie. Do you have any idea why we keep talking about Bernie?
Well, he did recently, and well, I don't know if he really announced this, but it was announced that he's considering running again in 2024. And I noticed there was that. Yeah, so there was a poll on Twitter, and I think some people were confused by this poll because there were so many comments. People were like, "What the hell?" So Vanguard actually put a poll on Twitter that said, "Would you support Bernie Sanders in 2024?" And I'm in different DM groups. And some people were confused by that poll. Some people thought the question was asking, would you vote for him? And some people thought the question was asking, well, yeah, would you support him? They're like, yeah, I would support him, but I wouldn't vote for him. So that made me think, do people really want to vote for Bernie Sanders again? And some people really do.
No.
Like, some people are really excited.
I don't. I don't understand why people are still excited about Bernie Sanders. I really don't. Now, I am not going to denigrate Bernie Sanders. I wouldn't be where I was unless Bernie Sanders had come along. He was a radicalizing force for me, but I've moved past him. And he doesn't have any relevance anymore. I don't know why we're still talking about 2016, 2020. I don't know why. I really don't know why. He died on the vine because he wasn't, like, you can sit there and you can talk about a revolution, and then you can sit there and do everything necessary to perpetuate the status quo. And that's not a revolution. So you can have the phrases, but he never had the action. Ever, ever, ever. And I never, and that's talking from me, like, I never would have looked into socialism. I never would have done anything like that unless Bernie was kind of the conduit to that. So I will always have a soft spot for Bernie, but he wasn't good for the movement.
That's interesting, Shelly. So let me ask you a question. So recently I was on a live stream and someone chimed in and said that Briahna Joy Gray said she would do everything that she could to help Bernie win again. How do you feel about that?
I really, really like Briahna Joy Gray. I feel like I try to call into her show. I can never get on. I have gotten on a couple of times, I think maybe twice, but it hasn't been necessarily what I wanted to talk about. But she's so obsessed with electoralism and so obsessed with working in the system that it makes it very difficult for me to take her seriously.
Oh dear.
Because yes, I mean, even with Kashama Sawant, which a lot of her audience was like really supportive of and being like, oh my God, I can't believe that we're hearing from Kashama Sawant. How great. But Kashama Sawant has this tendency toward trade unionism, which if you've ever read any theoretical texts about actually existing socialism, trade unionism is a death knell. Like it kills the working class movement. Like that's the first step, making people understand that there's a class consciousness that's involved. But then instead of donating to mutual aid, general strike, anything like that, you try to start to develop political organizations and you start to propagandize or advance the political consciousness of the working class. And that's not what's happening. We can organize as many unions as we want, but unless you take them beyond trade unionism, then it dies because they don't understand. You can organize them against the bosses, but it doesn't organize them against the systemic structure itself. And so there has to be education with that.
Interesting.
So can you give me
That's interesting. All right, Shelly, I got a lot of people lined up. But thanks so much for calling in. I'm going to go to the next caller. Thanks. Thanks so much. All right, I'm going to go to the next caller, and that is Jonathan. You're on the mic.
Hey, Sabby. Hey, Sabby. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a busy day.
Well, I'm just getting off Monday I'm going back to work because I was on spring break, so I'm sort of sad about that. Just want to answer the question: Would I vote for Bernie Sanders 2024? The answer is hell no, and I'll explain why. I saw him in 2016, and I went to one of his rallies in 2016. So I was a supporter, I was a voter, all that stuff. In 2020, I was I gave money, recurring donations every month. And then the day before the Iowa caucus, I actually gave him additional money because I believe that much into him. And the person who actually inspired me to do that was Michael Brooks, honestly. And after seeing how he was in 2020, basically sheep herding people back into the Democratic Party, and the fact that he wouldn't fight Joe Biden even after he dropped out, he had the upper hand. He could have did anything he wanted to and said, okay, you do these things, this thing, these, I will support you. He did nothing. He was like, okay, I'll just go ahead and let's just support Joe Biden. And whether he runs independent or Democrat, he's going to do the same exact thing. So that's my concern. Also, you brought up when the fact that he wouldn't support reparations. He actually went on the Breakfast Club, which has a majority black audience, and told Charlamagne the God specifically that I don't support reparations. You would never go on to, for an example, Telemundo or any of the Latinx channels and say, I don't support immigration. That wouldn't happen. But you went on to a majority black station, audience, not owned, but majority listened to by black people, go in there and say, I don't support reparations. And you had somebody, Nina Turner, pushed you and said, you got to support this. And please tell me that you're joking when you said Briahna Joy Gray would actually go back and work for him again. Please tell me that's a joke.
I don't know if she mentioned she would work for him again, but we were doing roundtable yesterday, and someone put in the chat that Briahna Joy Gray said she would do everything she can to help him win. Doesn't necessarily mean go work for him, but probably help like the voter base and things like that. But yeah.
How can I say this respectfully? I don't know who's worse, her or Symone Sanders. They've both been slapped in the face by either Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, and they want to go back and work for these people. Bernie Sanders specifically said, I remember he said, well, Briahna used to work for me. She doesn't work for me anymore, and that's it. He was totally disrespectful to her, and she even complained about the campaign of her not being heard. So I listen to Briahna every week when she brings out a podcast. So I am just like, I don't know who's worse, either her or Symone. Now, I think Symone is worse. I actually saw Symone the first time in 2016, and something about her, just for me, did not ring in my spirit. But before I go, can I just talk about one more thing that you brought up on RBN?
Yeah.
Hampton University allowing the Ukrainians to come in for free. As I told you, I'm an HBCU graduate. I'm actually an HBCU legacy. The reason why they do this is for money. And you mentioned this before, when people come from overseas, they come in paying more tuition, they're actually paying full tuition because they don't get financial aid. We know that the black wealth in general is very, very low compared to our white counterparts. So a lot of black students, when they go to schools, especially HBCUs, they rely on financial aid. The president Harvey at Hampton University is a corporatist. He worked for Coca-Cola many years. He's always been that type of person who's always tried to, find the connections with the corporations. So for him, this is a money thing. And for HBCUs in general, this is a money thing. They feel like if we can get more and more international students to come over and just, first we get them in for free, but then realize that, okay, we can get more and more in here that will pay full tuition, then that's how we're going to increase how we're going to get more money, generate more revenue. But just like with Hampton, Howard, and most HBCUs, they have their own financial problems, especially when it comes to housing. So I just want you to keep that in mind, because you did mention that before when it comes to immigrants, and even African immigrants coming over to the United States and coming to our institutions and paying, full tuition and not having to go through the financial aid system.
Well said. Well said, Jonathan. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, that story was hard to. When I first saw that article, that was rough. That was hard to talk about.
And you're right that we don't even hear our HBCU alumni even talking about it, whether it's Charles Blow or even Kamala Harris. But I'm just gonna leave it at that, and just wish you a good night, and hopefully we'll speak again next week.
Awesome. Thanks so much for calling in, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right. Will, you are the next caller. Just got to hit unmute.
Hey, Sabs.
Hey, how are you?
How you doing? How you doing? I ain't got too much to say. I'm gonna leave it short because I do got a lot to say, but I'm gonna leave it short because it's too much. But so far as Bernie, I'm gonna say this. Bernie came in with a message of basically informing the public so far as in the corruption and everything like that. That's what I noticed about his 2016 campaign. Uh, it seemed like his message changed and he had a script the second time he ran, and it became just straight drilling healthcare. And it was like somebody told him, it was almost like what we doing on these platforms, we censoring. So they censored all that corruption, said, no, you can't talk about none of this. This is the only thing you can talk about. You want to talk about something, talk about this. Or they gave him a script because they felt as though they knew what they was doing. Like they had a behind the scenes plan of all he gonna do is bring these people in, and they gonna run into the burning house. Like he was basically bringing people into the burning house. So that's all I can say about Bernie. His message was what killed it for me and a lot of other people that I talked to. It was it seemed more power in the beginning, and then he turned into like asking for something. One, it was demanding something, and then it was asking for something, and then that's when it got diluted and it changed. And I think like even with like AOC, like when I seen AOC when she first started running, I actually kind of seen her being corrupt from almost from the beginning because she had like she was on Jimmy Dore, I believe, and she was speaking about Palestinians and stuff, and she seemed informed. And then she went on a news show, like a mainstream media news show, and they asked her about about the Palestinians, and she acted like she had no geopolitical understanding. And I was just like, oh, she's playing stupid right now. She don't want to say something because they want her to say something, and she like, oh, I'm not gonna say nothing right now because I don't want to damage myself. And I'm like, the truth shouldn't be damaging. If you say the truth, the real people gonna understand you. The truth is only damaging for these corporations where if you say the truth and then they'll start slandering you and trying to throw dirt on your name. But so far as the regular people, they understand the truth. Like I talk to Jewish people and I can say stuff about the Palestinians and they somewhat understand. Like, but then some people that have some type of motivation to keep those people hurt, they the only ones that don't understand because they like no, because I don't like I want that land. Like I wanna hold that. Like it's something that's not real. Something that what they fight for is not real. It's something that's like I don't even understand it sometimes. Sometimes I just look at it all about money. I just be like, it's kind of just greed. It's not about nothing else but greed. Everything else is like I don't know. Like I can't understand most stuff when it comes to greed because I'm like greed only go but so far with me. It's like protecting my family and stuff like that, make sure that they can enjoy life. That's where it kind of ends. When it start to come to materialistic, we all kind of want certain things, but it's just like, what is life at the end of the day? Is about like what is we working for? What is we working towards? I mean, like we wor- you just want your family to be cool. You want your family to learn and love. I don't understand most of the other stuff. Like I don't know. I'm probably not too greedy. I probably need to be more greedy. But shut up, you being too loud. But yeah, I'm probably need to be more greedy. But that's all I gotta say.
Awesome. Well said, Will. Thanks so much for calling in.
All right.
All right. I want to give a quick shout out to Steve. Thanks so much for the super chat. I will not eat green eggs and ham. I will not vote for Bernie again. All right, Steve. I'm going to go ahead and take the next caller, and it is Ronwell. You are on the mic.
Hello there. I honestly would have voted for him in 2016 if it picked Tulsi when she resigned as a DNC vice chair, endorsed Bernie, and Bernie picked him as his VP in 2016. And honestly, I would have hard time. But the way it is now, I'll say no. And here's why. But Bernie's now like fraud and controlled opposition and all that. And I'm actually glad that the McKinney exposed him on foreign policy. Like, for example, Bernie voted for like Iraq war under the Clinton presidency. I don't know if you remember that. And so I certainly want to vote for it. And about the aging, I don't think. I mean, I'm not talking like yeah. I would have voted for him in 2016, and because of my liberty beliefs, I would have tough time supporting Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, or Bernie Sanders. I will have tough time, but now, no, and I would much rather have the this presidential ticket of Jesse Ventura and Sidney McKinney, which I still support that ticket.
So you'd rather vote third party or independent?
I mean, I'll say it depends. I guess when it comes to third party, it depends on the libertarian parties stuff. But if it's about like a rigged primary stuff for the Libertarian Party, then no. Same goes with the Green Party. They had Harry Hawkins on, and they would have Jesse Ventura in 2020. About it depends. It depends, I guess. I want it some stuttering boy for now until like there's name recognition in 2024.
All right, Ron. Well, thanks so much for calling in. I'm gonna go to the next caller.
All right, bye.
All right, Cade, you are now the next caller.
Hi. So I guess I think I would vote for Bernie in a Democratic primary. Probably I wouldn't do a lot to support him. I wouldn't donate. I wouldn't knock doors unless he ran a totally different campaign than he did in 2020. Or maybe unless like if he ran just maybe a purely anti-war campaign, like if Biden sent ground troops into Ukraine or something and it sort of morphed into a kind of anti-war movement, I could see knocking doors and not so much, evangelizing for Bernie, but just, trying to get people to oppose the war. But other than that, I guess I don't think Bernie will run a campaign that I would want to support other than by voting for him in the primary, which, I can still vote in the Green primary and vote for Greens in the general if I vote for Bernie in the Democratic primary. So it kind of cost me nothing to oppose Biden or to oppose Harris. But the only way that I would really get into wanting to support it would be Briahna Joy Gray on her call-in yesterday. I didn't hear her say that thing about that she would do everything she could to get Bernie elected. But I might have just missed that. But she sort of posed this hypothetical, what if, not that this is actually going to happen, but what if Bernie were to say either I'm running third party or I'm running in the Democratic primary, and then, if either I don't win or the person who wins isn't, acceptable to us on like the minimum wage, Medicare for all, all the normal things that Bernie says he supports, then I'll either run third party or endorse the third party candidates. And if it were something like that, where, that was kind of what we wanted him to do in 2020 and 2016, was when he lost, it was rigged against him, to go, launch a genuine third party movement in the United States. And I think he still has a platform that's bigger than any other progressive, and he could do that if he wanted to. But I mean, I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to run a campaign in that way. But it's not that I could never support him. I just don't really see donating or my time or money or anything like that if we're not going to get something out of it.
That's a good point. I think the reason why I get so bitter about this is because I donated a lot of money to Bernie Sanders. And I just feel like I could have used that money towards mutual aid and actually helped people. And I saw people give like their last $10 to Bernie Sanders because they really believed that he was going to get in there and he was going to fight. And so to see him just cave like that to Joe Biden, that just tells me is like, dude, you're just going along with the Democratic Party once. And if that's the case, then again, like, why are you an independent?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, like I would just, the only reason I would really vote for him isn't like necessarily that I trust him or like his campaign after that. It's just that, it doesn't cost me anything like in terms of ability to support third parties or mutual aid or anything like that. And I guess I want the same reason I vote third party, even if I don't think a third party is going to like really explode. The same reason I intend to like vote for the Green Party probably. Is not that I even like the Green Party or think that the Green Party is going to become what we need it to be. It's just I want to like register my opposition to Biden and Trump or whoever the Republican nominee is. So I guess that's why I'd vote for Bernie. I mean, it's why I still have my Bernie bumper sticker up on my car from like 2016, and I leave it there because it tells the people that it's just a symbol to me that I oppose corporate power and I oppose all the people who hated Bernie. Not so much a positive endorsement of Bernie, I guess.
Well, Cade, thanks so much for calling in. I'm going to go to the next caller.
Yeah. Thanks. Love your show. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Pedro, you're next on the mic.
Good evening, Sabby. So the question is, would you vote for Bernie? So I'm not an American citizen, so I cannot vote for Bernie, but I have two general questions for you. So first question is, would be your advice for any American citizen that can vote for Bernie? And another question is, what do you think about? So I'm a permanent resident, so we cannot vote for any election, not even local elections. So I was just interested to hear what do you think about that. Should we vote? Thanks. Good night.
Well, it depends. Like, what are you voting for? Are you voting for Bernie Sanders because you expect some type of change? Or are you voting for Bernie Sanders because, out of good faith, like just, I guess, like exercising your voting right? Because if you're voting for him just to exercise your voting right, that's one thing. But if you're voting for him because you expect some type of change, like the policies, Medicare for all, canceling student loan debt, then I would say no, because those things, if those things could happen right, well, they can happen right now, right? But it's not being done. And obviously, Bernie's not president, Joe Biden's president, and he can do those things by executive order. But when I see Bernie Sanders and members of the squad go onto other people's shows and say that Joe Biden's doing a good job and making excuses for Joe Biden, like that interview that Bernie Sanders did with Crystal Ball, Bernie Sanders was defending Joe Biden. And there was no defense of Joe Biden needed with those issues. Joe Biden was not trying to cancel student loan debt. He still isn't really Joe Biden is not trying to give everybody health care. He already said if Medicare for all came across his desk, he would veto it. But Bernie Sanders was there going to bat for Joe Biden. AOC did the same thing. So have other members of the squad. So I think if you are voting for someone because you think you are going to get some type of policy change that is going to significantly change your life, I would tell you not to do it. Because the reality is, there's a study from Princeton, and I showed this on my show recently. The study shows that for people who are poor, working class, and middle class, when it comes to policy change, our vote doesn't impact policy change, like not for us. Policy change is impacted by people who are wealthy. And this is where the money comes in. And this is why I tell people we need to go back to the money. For example, it used to be a couple years ago, there was this focus on getting money out of politics. Now, I think if people do want to vote for progressives going in the Democratic Party, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to get the money out of politics. Then you don't have to worry about dealing with the corruption and the DNC handpicking people and sabotaging people and smearing people. Then you don't have to worry about that. But as long as you have the corporate money in and this party is controlled by Wall Street, it is going to be very difficult for them to get in, number one. And even if they are in, they have to go along with what the Democratic Party wants. People who have tried not to go along with the Democratic Party, they've been pushed out. Cynthia McKinney, Dennis Kucinich, Ralph Nader, they're not going to keep those people there. So again, if somebody came to me with a plan and said, hey, Sabby, we have this plan on how to get the money out, and it looked like this is something that can actually be done, then I would say, okay, let's focus on getting that money out. And then once you get that money out, then let's talk about running these progressive candidates through the Democratic Party. But until you get the money out, I think it is a waste of time if you think you're going to get some type of policy change. And that was the thing for me and a lot of people that voted for Bernie Sanders. We voted for him because we thought we were going to get a policy change. We wanted to get health care for everybody. We wanted them to cancel student loan debt. We wanted to get like paid family leave. We wanted to increase the minimum wage. Like that's why we voted for Bernie Sanders. But once you understand how the money works, then you realize if it's not him, it'll be someone else that's a rotating villain that's going to prevent those policies from getting passed. That's why it's always something new. If it's not Joe Manchin, it's Kyrsten Sinema. If it's not Kyrsten Sinema, it's the Senate parliamentarian, it's Congress, it's Kamala Harris, anyone that they can point to say this is why we couldn't get this done. And that's done on purpose.
I agree with you totally. I was actually a very big Bernie Sanders supporter. I campaigned for him in 16 and 20. And before him, I was supported Howard Dean in 2004. So, but I totally agree. Yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much for calling in, Pedro. I'm going to get to the next caller.
Thank you. You're welcome. Good night.
All right. Okay, Mitchell, you are the next caller. Just have to unmute.
There we go. I'm really mixed feelings on it. I really wouldn't do anything unless he was not in the Democratic Party. I'd view anything in the Democratic Party as just raising money for Pete Buttigieg and Stacey Abrams, who's up next. And then, but on the other side, they are going to throw in a bait and switch of reparations. And it's happened multiple times before, and it never comes to be. It gets sidelined to the other part. You have to really start thinking about how to do reparations in such a way that it can't be revoked. So in the reparations, it has to have collateral. So when you think of like money, you just make all college for public universities free. That way, everybody else, not just the black people, everybody else has to have their congressman or whoever go up against them and say, why'd you take this away? It has to be the Medicare for all, because it has to be everybody fighting together, because they won't want to take anything away. Otherwise, 4 years later, it can all go away. And the next thing, there's going to be clauses. You might have to give up your citizenship and leave the country to get it. And you have to be thinking about what is going to be put on it. You might just say, hey, reparations, and then just slide through. And then whoever's in, even if they're black, is going to sell out and just give the worst possible deal. And they're going to give Hillary Clinton's daughter $1 billion a year to fund some type of special thing that nothing actually goes to any kind of people. Sorry.
So I wasn't going to get into the reparations discussion, but since you brought it up, I think reparations should be paid by corporations because they actually benefited from slavery. And I think that when we talk about reparations, I don't think reparations should just be a check. I think you need to make systemic changes. Otherwise, we'll be right back where we started. So that means fixing the public school system and making sure that all these public schools are equal and they have the same amount of resources regardless of your zip code. That means fixing these hospitals, regardless of what community you live in, you should still have a hospital. There are some rural communities in this country where the hospitals have closed. So if you have to go to the emergency room, you may have to drive 40 minutes, an hour out just to get to the ER. Those things need to be fixed.
Maybe, but I also have to drive like 3 hours to get for some special medical because I'm out in Iowa.
Right.
3 hours.
This is a problem, but I'm not going to go too deep into reparations tonight. I've done other, streams about that, but reparations is a debt that is owed to descendants of slaves in this country. Slaves were not given 40 acres and a mule, and had they been given that, we would have the racial wealth gap that we have in this country would be nowhere near as large as it is right now. So that is a big part of the problem. So a lot of times black families did not have property and wealth to pass down to their children. There's also reparations that needs to be done for Jim Crow as well, because you have a lot of those systemic racial issues that we have in this country is because of Jim Crow, not just because of slavery. And that's coming from me, someone who lived in the South, and I've lived in the North, and I've lived overseas. And I can tell you the systemic issues are still very much present in this country. But I don't want to get too deep.
I didn't mean to get into reparations so much as it being used as a criteria to vote for somebody, because they're going to say, yes, it is. And then just like Biden, when he came in, moved everything to a bill that could be slashed and everything to the bill that enriched his donors or whatever. And the same thing's going to happen with reparation. It's going to be slipped, only the part that makes the very wealthy get paid, and everybody else is going to get screwed. It has to be done very carefully, and look at every way that Nancy Pelosi or whoever can throw something on it to just benefit themselves and no one else.
I mean, I hear you. Well, the Democratic Party is not gonna, they're not gonna give people reparations. I just want to go ahead and let everybody know that. I don't think that's not going to come from the Democratic Party. It's not going to come from the Republican Party. I think that movement needs to be led by someone who is not a politician. And I'm sorry, but it's true. People are going to use it, like you were saying, like for their campaigns to get elected. So I do think
I think it will be Stacey Abrams. Vice President Stacey Abrams will use it for reparations. We're going to get it, and nothing's going to happen.
Well, I have opinions about Stacey Abrams, but I don't want to get into that tonight. But thanks so much, Miko. I'm going to go to the next caller. All right. Next caller is Greg Bruce. You're on the mic.
Hey, so Bernie Sanders. If he runs as a Democrat, absolutely not. I'm absolutely done with that party. If he runs as an independent, I mean, it's possible that I would vote for him, but that's still not a guarantee because at the end of the day, if he's an independent senator who behaves exactly like a Democratic senator, if he somehow became an independent president, which is like impossible, but let's just say it did happen, who's to say he wouldn't be an independent president who just acted like a Democratic president? He's technically independent, but a de facto Democrat right now. So what's the difference on a presidential ticket? So that wouldn't be enough. He would have to, like, in order for me to vote for him, he would have to, I don't know, acknowledge that he sold out or something. I don't know how, but like apologize for kind of abandoning his movement and just going along with Biden's neoliberalism and so forth. So he would have to acknowledge that, and he would have to move significantly to the left on foreign policy. I mean, not be an imperialist, and he would need to actually acknowledge, support Assange or for freeing Assange. Like, he would have to move on a lot of things, and it's just like he would have to really do a lot to earn my vote. So pretty much it's not going to happen. I mean, I don't see myself voting for him because he's not the person he's not the leader of the left. He's not the person to take us further. So that's my piece.
Thanks so much for calling in, Greg. I'm going to go to the next caller here, which is Carolina. Carolina, you are on the mic. I don't know why I wanted to sing your name, Carolina. Or is it Carolina?
It's Carolina Boy is my my full name.
Oh, I can only see the first part. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. It's all good. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I just wanted to say, I don't think Bernie's going to end up running. I find this highly unlikely. But if he did, yes, I would vote for him. And I just have to say, even though I've been pretty disappointed with how he's been since he ended the campaign, and even how he did the 2020 campaign and stuff, I still got to give him a lot of credit. At least for me, and I think a lot of people in our space, our political awakening really came with what he was able to open our eyes to. I remember I started looking at politics in 2008, and I'm out here in the rural South, and I remember Obama was talking a lot about outsourcing and stuff, and the town where I'm at, a couple of the manufacturing plants got shut down and the jobs got outsourced, and it just completely ruined this place. We got a heroin problem and a lot of poverty and crime and stuff, but he didn't do much about it. And it was always Bernie who was talking about the trade, talking about needing to strengthen the working class and all of that. And so he really brought me, and I brought a lot of people, I think, to coming around to into realizing these issues and putting it at the forefront and helping us build this movement. So I know that if he was president, he would be better than a lot of what we got all right. He definitely probably wouldn't. He would probably disappoint us in a lot of ways too. But I would vote for him if he ended up running. I just don't personally see that happening. And the unfortunate thing about it is I don't see any good successor following him to take over. Whenever he is going to lead our movement forward. So that's the sad part. I really think 2016 was his year, and the fact we couldn't get him in office, that's it looks I'm just personally, I think the future looks bleak without him. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, Carolina Boy, thanks so much for calling in.
Yep, thank you.
All right, guys, I have a hard stop at 11 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and take the next caller, which is Eliz. Not sure if it's Elizabeth, but all I can see is Eliz. So,
hey.
Oh, hello.
Hi, it's Elizabeth, and I'm so just psyched to be talking to you. I was out in my garden weeding and then realized this was live. And I grew up in Norwell, and I've mentioned that in the chat quite a few times. I did hear your speech on the Commons today, and you've got an important voice. I really appreciate your focus on economics and class policies. And I think Massachusetts is lucky to have you. And I hope that you'll be getting out and doing a lot more of that. I have great memories in the 70s and 80s of going to Earth Day events on the Commons. And then I really agree with some of the prior callers. I think it was Eric talking about how, asking questions about, well, what has Bernie been doing since the last presidential election? All of a sudden now with the midterms coming up, a few people are, kind of waving their fingers in the air and talking about Medicare, but absolutely nothing has been said or done about it. And then Roger Meadows always has a lot of good wisdom, and he was talking about the focus on state and local initiatives, being involved locally. And it kind of reminds me of the movie It's a Wonderful Life, and he's talking about lassoing the moon for the gal that he loved. And I think, for myself at least, I'll say it kind of felt like Bernie, promised to lasso the moon for us, and he didn't. And then he just walked away and disappeared. And so it's kind of like a dream to want to get reinvigorated with that image, but that has nothing to do with the boots on the ground, policy-based action, mutual aid, etc.
Right. No, that's a good point, Elizabeth. I definitely hear you. It's just it's really unfortunate that he just walked away from the movement like that. And then also, where did all that money go? Like, I feel like, some of that money went to the DNC. So it was just like, when I donated to Bernie Sanders, I didn't intend for my money to go to the DNC. I intended my money to go to Bernie Sanders' campaign. And to see some of these candidates, like AOC did the same thing. Like, she gave some of her grassroots money to establishment Democrats. I'm like, no, like, that's not why we donated to you.
Exactly. And you've been doing a great job of following the money and digging really deep and talking about PACs lately. And I think that is just so, so important. So you have been pulling a late night, and I will let you go and sure appreciate you. Thanks for all you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to take the next caller, and that's David. David, you're on the mic. Just have to
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey, what's up, Sabby? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Yep, thank you. So with Bernie Sanders and all, so what, he came in 2016, legalized weed, feel me? And that got everyone on the bandwagon because, you know what I mean? It helps people, all that good stuff. So after that, his next election was all about Medicare for all. Now, within those 2 times he ran, I don't ever remember him following through with anything solid for legalizing weed or for Medicare for all, especially when Jimmy Dore was pushing the forced to vote.
Right.
You know what I mean? He wasn't there, nowhere to be found. And before that, anything prior to legalizing weed, nothing. So, I mean, my opinion is he's not for the people. He's not for what he was pushing. And I don't think people should donate, vote. I think we need to vote for other people, get rid of all the other people that's been in the establishment for how long they've been in, and go with something new, different. You know what I mean? Like, because if not, we're going to get stuck with the same results, them just playing us. And that's not cool.
Well said. Thank you so much for calling in, David. I'm going to go to the next caller.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, TJ, you're the next caller. And guys, Lance is going to be the last caller I'll be able to take because Sabby looking at the time here. All right, TJ, you just have to unmute.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I've got 2 points. The first one is I find it kind of funny and ironic that in general, the elderly are considered unemployable and unfit, right, for the marketplace, but are somehow the prime choice when it comes to leading our country. That's my first point. My second point is it pertains to Bernie Sanders. I mean, I think his supporters should be rightfully upset. I kind of view Bernie as really like controlled opposition in some ways. You know, he's got a lot of great vision and a lot of great goals, but I don't think it's really going to hit the ground. I mean, there's a certain element of the marketplace and fairness that I think needs to be ironed out before people are kind of ready for that. So I don't really see it going anywhere. Would love to see it. I'd love to see, you know, obviously that the high wealth and the high end earners pay their fair share and things like that. But I'm somewhat of a cynic about it. And in a lot of ways, I think maybe a better candidate would be somebody who could kind of bridge the gap a little bit better and someone that doesn't really have that sort of track record. You know, as they say, fool me once, shame on me, sort of thing. So anyway, great show. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks so much for calling in, TJ. All right. The next caller is Johnny. And again, I want to remind everyone, Lance will be the last caller and he will be next. What's going on, Johnny?
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. So I was really excited. One of those people was really excited working for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And I can't tell you how even more excited I got when I found out that as an economic advisor, he had hired Dr. Stephanie Kelton, who is a advocate of the new economic perspective, modern monetary theory. But and then what was really bad is how so disappointed I was when he fell into that trap about how are you going to pay for it, and somehow started to follow along with the Democrats and saying that, yeah, this is how I'm going to find the money, right? And all along, Dr. Stephanie Kelton is advising Bernie Sanders that's not the way it works, and he knows this, right? A lot of people know this, but yet you know, he stuck to it, and I think partly because, and this is why I think, you know, I'm one of those that wouldn't even vote. I wouldn't vote for Bernie again, you know, because at one point you have to tell the truth to the people, right? As noble as Bernie was, if he would have told the truth about federal finance, macroeconomics, then I think it would have been a game changer. It would have been, you know, it would have been the platform that he had. The whole nation would have understood, darn it, man. You mean that's not how you mean the federal government is not like a household? And that just changes your whole perspective, right? So if he were to run in 2024, it would be, to me, like a nail in the coffin to the progressive movement. And the reason why is because I don't think he would change his tune. I think he would still play this, how are you going to pay for a thing, you know? And when you do that, that's a slap in the face. And the sad thing, the real sad thing, is that most people in America don't understand the basics of modern money. And for that reason, not because of apathy meaning that I don't care, but because they feel like they are powerless to do anything, you know? So a lot of people don't vote, to the point that I myself, and I'll close with this, I myself am a revolutionary. I have given up in the electoral process, and I'm thinking about looking for strategies on how to go forth with a revolution. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Awesome. Thanks so much for calling in, Johnny. And Lance, you are my final caller. You're now on the mic.
Thank you so much. I don't know if it was yours or Breed's thing. I was like the next to last one. And they said, okay, we're cutting it off at Eric. I was the one after them. I'm the guy in line who, you know, sorry, we sold all the tickets. Oh, wait, but I'm next. Yeah, well, too bad. Anyway, but Bernie, his evolution, remember Chris Hedges' take. And, you know, it's interesting because even earlier today, talking about you've evolved in your take, which is Chris Hedges said in 2015, no, Bernie, never going to let you get there. 2015, he said, run. You've been running you've been an independent Democratic socialist that caucused with the Democrats. Run as an independent, run as that. And he didn't. And he didn't in 2020, and the game's over. But I have a take on this whole thing about 2024 Bernie, if I may. Now, there's a guy who's very beloved, Democrat, much more cogent than Biden, totally trusted, has a resume a mile long as far as being president. And although I'm, left of Bernie and almost right there with, say, a Marxist like Professor Wolf, how about I think we should draft a petition to draft Jimmy Carter. I think Jimmy Carter should be the candidate.
Isn't Jimmy Carter like 100 years old?
No, he's in. Now listen, Sabs, hear me out now. I just wait. Now I just became an official senior, right? Like a few short weeks ago, right? And I'm an anti-ageist. I actually on your thing, I was joking about somebody who was talking about boomers and whatever, or Sagar and Jetty who wants us all to die. Whatever. We will soon enough. Anyway, I'm an anti-ageist, right? I've had an affinity for old people since I couldn't walk across the street and it was all old people on my block, including my own grandparents and people I call grandma and aunt something. And so I'm anti-ageist, and so we're in that. If we're going to go in that vein, why not? He's only 97, and he's got more vim and vigor than certainly than Biden. So I think we should draft Jimmy Carter and he's 97 right now.
What
do you think?
I have never heard that one before. I'll tell you, that is really going to make me laugh tonight.
I figured, what am I going to say at the end of a bunch of really intelligent callers? And what are you going to say, right? Just going to add to the conversation. But I thought I'd throw that at you there. I'll call the Onion, see if they'll buy it from me, right? So, Carter says he's running. But in all seriousness, you look at FDR versus Bernie, okay, Bernie's been like a socialist for like 40 years. FDR was a centrist Democrat. FDR was much more movement oriented, whether he had been, you know what I mean? It's like,
uh-oh. I think we lost Lance. Oh, maybe the call-in app didn't like the Jimmy Carter reference. I don't know. Oh, man. Oh, sorry, Lance. I don't know what happened. Oh, man. That sucks. You want me to go ahead and take those? Thanks so much, Eric. Thanks for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. Here's an idea. Instead of getting reporters to go all over the city, have them get an Uber and Lyft driver account, put a camera in the car, and now they can talk to people all over New York City of different wealth and income. We must be willing to lose in order to win. Let federal go for the rest of the decade. Focus on home states, local and ballot initiatives. And thank you for this tip as well. You want to get the money out? Do it via ballot initiative and apply it to local, state, and federal elections. Have it say donors with financial big money ties outside of the state are banned from donating in elections. Good advice, Roger Meadows. Thanks so much. All right, guys. Thanks to everyone that called in. It is my time. I do have to head out. This was a really interesting discussion. So thanks to everyone who called in on call-in. Who knows what'll happen 2024, right? We don't know. But we can at least talk about it. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this segment on call-in. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good night. All right, everyone watching on YouTube, it's time for me to say goodbye. Now it's time to say goodbye to all my company. MIC, see you real soon. KEY, why? Because we love you. MOUSE. All right, guys. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.